Meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Flossmoor. Today is dated Monday, October 21st. This meeting is being streamed via Zoom for the convenience of those at home. When we get to the public comment section, I'll read from the list of folks who have signed in. If you'll approach the podium and introduce yourself and also your address, that'd be great. We ask that you address the board with decorum and that you address the public body at large and not a single member of staff. We also ask that you limit your comments to a total of 5 minutes per person for a maximum public comment time of 30 minutes. And you might notice that this is not Kathy Orr to my right. This is Carl Addison. He is a partner and founder of the firm that represents the village. He's going to be filling in for Kathy in person for the next couple of months. She's going to be working remotely. So thank you for being here. Welcome. The time is 7:33. Clerk Gavel, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Bradley Scott. Trustee Daggett.
Here.
Trustee Driscoll.
Here.
Trustee Lofton.
Here.
Trustee Mitros.
Here.
Trustee Mustafa.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Present. Thank you so much. We have a quorum. Before we get into the weeds of the meeting tonight, I'd like to get a couple of quick updates. On October 17th, there was a brazen armed attack here in the village of Flossmoor, and I have our Director of Police Services, Mr. Carl Estelle, to give us an update.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening to the Board of Trustees, and good evening to the community. On October 17th at 1:35 p.m., police received notification that an armed robbery and vehicle theft had taken place and were immediately dispatched to the scene. The Flossmoor Police Department interviewed the victim and quickly alerted surrounding law enforcement agencies with details of the vehicle and suspect. Police leadership, working together with ECOM, dispatch, and using various technology, quickly assessed that there was no active threat or danger to the community. The stolen vehicle was out of Flossmoor's jurisdiction very quickly, which was confirmed by other law enforcement agencies who utilized license plate readers as well as police officers on the scene. Shortly after the vehicle was stopped, the suspect was arrested in a 5900 block of Rice in the city of Chicago. That entire episode took about 1 hour. If you were to Google right now to see how long it would take to go from here to the 5900 block of Rice, it would be about 1 hour again. With the suspect safely in custody, the police department drafted a media release that the manager's office reviewed. The media release contained information related to the incident and was sent to our local media partners on the evening of October 17, 2024. Due to the brazenness of this incident, we felt this incident warranted sharing with the news media to inform the public that this crime had occurred. However, once again, because there was no danger to the community and the suspect was apprehended, we recommended no call for action. In an effort to continue to inform the public on this event, we also gave additional information on our website, our police Facebook, and our village Facebook, as well as an update on October 19th when the Cook County State's Attorney's Office filed charges on this suspect. The village has historically deployed ECOP alerts as a call for action or to alert the community of an emergency threat. The purpose of using ECOPs exclusively for calls for action was to make sure that the residents receive high priority information. This would have been treated very differently if the person had left on foot and was believed to still be in the vicinity of Flossmoor. For example, a rage alert may have been issued, schools would have been contacted. We may have suggested that schools close their schools down or get a lockdown. We also may have suggested that residents shelter in place. Once again, there was no threat. The number one priority of the police department is to keep our residents safe. In this case, staff use our in-place community procedures by sharing the details with our local news media. Just for information to everyone here, this is still an ongoing investigation, and a lot of information can't be revealed right now. But we will continue to work with the state's attorney's office to make sure they can prosecute this case.
Thank you for the update. And also, I want to thank the village board, staff, and the police department for installing these block cameras, for approving the purchase and then having them installed. It's my understanding that they were very helpful in solving this case very quickly. Also want to thank the police department for a great job of capturing and then also charging the suspect in this matter. Next, I'd like to get an update from our Director of Public Works, John Bunke. We were told that there would not be any water in the basin of Heather Hill. That didn't seem to be the case. There's some things that we're working on right now with the contractor and the engineer, and I'd like an update from the Director of Public Works. Thank you, Mr. Bunke.
Yes, thank you. So as of today, or as of last week, the project is substantially complete. Last week, the contractor had their surveying company out to do the topography, the as-built of the basin. Once that's drafted and submitted to us and our engineers for the project, we're going to review it to make sure it complies with the plan. We have not seen anything yet, but seeing the water in the basin, we do have the same concerns as a community. We have noticed the water in the basin, the puddles. They're not deep puddles, but there is standing water, which shouldn't be the case. So once we get the topography submitted to us, we can review it. The project is not closed out, it's not paid out yet, and there's going to be a punch list items yet to go through. Majority of work is complete though. Other remaining items we have on the project are the educational and access signage, which we're waiting for the school district to approve the language on it so we can have it ordered and then installed on the fencing. And then also there is a grate on the box culvert down there that still has to be installed, which can be done after the fact, but that will be done before the project is finished completely. So we're hoping all this work should be done hopefully over the next month or so.
And just for folks who aren't aware, substantially complete means it's not complete.
Not 100%.
We haven't paid out all of it.
No.
There's a punch list to be done, and this is part of the punch list.
Yes.
Can you also explain to folks the deep root seeding, the deep root plants that are there, whose job it is to soak up some of this water?
Yeah, so the seeding that was planted, it's native seeding in the bottom of the basin. There's two different types. One in the bottom of the basin that's more of a basic, it can stand have more moisture in it. It's a deep-rooted native plantings. It's more of a grass mix, native grass. And then there's a different slope mix native that goes on the banks. Both of these are seeds and grasses once they're established, which takes up to 3 years of full growth. Is not mowed. It's something we won't be mowing. It'll grow to a certain height and stay that way. And then we'll have turf grass at the top rim around it by the fence, where that'll be mowed on a weekly basis by our contractors, landscape contractors in the village that do our other grounds and that. So that's planned already in place.
Thank you. And can you explain the payout on that seeding portion of it? Because we do have some guarantees.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a 3-year warranty period on that seeding, so if it isn't established, they have to come back within the 3 years, or at the end of the 3 years, and deal with it. But we also have like probably 6-month or 1-year check-ins on that seeding to see how it's established and make sure that they're kind of maintaining it if it isn't coming in. If you've been by the basin and seen the slopes, it's fully coming in at the moment. It's full green right now. The top rim hasn't had enough rain on it yet, so that's turf grass that'll be coming in. I imagine if not now, it'll be more in the spring. But the bottom of the basin and the slopes are already getting green, which is a good sign. But if we have to fix any grading in the basin in the bottom, the contractor will go down there and fix it. So.
And they reshot that grade just last week?
I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday last week they were out there. Yeah, we let them in there, and then that has to get plotted, drafted up, so we can get it submitted to us for review. So some extra movement.
And the board can expect an update at a future?
Yes, yeah, probably in the next couple weeks you should get an update once we get that submitted to us. And hopefully it's by next week or this week even, and then we can get a review on it and let you have everybody know status. We can do it more on it. So.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No problem. Sounds good.
Sure, Trustee Mustafa?
Hi, John. Thanks for coming. I want neither to downplay nor exaggerate the water. I just would like to know about how deep is it?
I haven't been down there to measure it, but from what I'm seeing, it's probably a couple inches, 2 to 4 inches maybe deep. Yeah, is what I'm seeing from on the top of the basin. So,
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have some recognitions and appointments. This first one's very exciting. Proclamation honoring the 50th anniversary of Flossmoor's Fire Department EMS program. And I'd like to welcome to the front members of Flossmoor's EMS and Fire Department. Also, we have our regional EMS director for the past 41 years, Dr. Bernie Heiditzer, who's here. We also have retirees John Flanagan, Mike Hall, Bill Gillespie, Bill Schneider, Richie Ambule, Tim and Cheryl Hall, and some folks I think are joining us via Zoom for this special event as well. Also want to give a shout out to Flossmoor's Volunteer Fire Department Corporation. They fund a lot of the new technology that our EMS gets to use. So thank you for the work that you do year round to give back to the community. And with that, if you could please join me up here, that'd be great. Don't everybody come all at once. Whereas, as we gather to commemorate the remarkable journey of the Flossmoor Fire Department and its esteemed role within the South Cook County Emergency Medical Services Program, we are filled with immense pride and gratitude. And whereas this year marks a historic milestone, the 50th anniversary of Flossmoor Fire Department's commitment to providing vital emergency medical services to our community. This achievement reflects the unwavering dedication and resilience of our firefighters. And whereas our odyssey began in the fall of 1973 when 6 courageous and pioneering members of our department, Gregory Burke, Don Candle, Murph Kleinstein, Howard Decker, Ken McAfee, and Cliff Lutton, embarked on a new journey, enrolling in the inaugural paramedic program offered in South Cook County. And whereas these trailblazers completed rigorous training and became certified EMT paramedics through the Illinois Department of Public Health, enabling the Flossmoor paramedic program to become operational on September 1st, 1974, a defining moment for our community in accessing advanced pre-hospital care. And whereas in the program's inaugural year, our paramedics and fire department volunteers responded to approximately 102 EMS requests, setting a solid precedent. Today, our paramedics respond to over 1,580 EMS calls annually, a staggering 175% increase since 1974. And whereas the Flossmoor Fire Department has continuously adapted to the community needs by operating 2 ambulances, enabling simultaneous emergency responses while partnering with neighboring communities to provide mutual aid and support. And whereas, as we reflect on our storied past, let us recognize the enduring legacy of excellence established by those who came before us, and the future contributions yet to be made. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and together we will continue to uphold the proud legacy of the Flossmoor Fire Department. Now, therefore, I, Michelle Nelson, do hereby proclaim that we honor and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Flossmoor Fire Department's EMS program, expressing our deepest gratitude to all past, present, and future members for their dedicated service, which helps make the village of Flossmoor a safer place. Dated this 21st day of October. Thank you so much. And then Dr. Heilitzer, as our regional coordinator, would you like to say anything?
Thank you. I'll be real quick. She said it all. The program was started 50 years ago as part of Ingle, South Cook County EMS. Our EMS system is the second in the state of Illinois. Flossmoor is amongst the initial EMS providers in the state, and I'm extremely fortunate in 2 ways. One, these guys work under my license, and I feel my life extremely secure, and they do a phenomenal job. But also, probably more importantly, my wife, myself, our kids, everybody, we live in town, and we're very appreciative to everything that the Flossmoor Fire Department, EMS, Police Department, and everybody does. We feel very safe, and that's why we've been here so very long. So I think we should be very proud and very happy and feel good that these are the folks represented.
He was also Flossmoor's first full-time fire chief, and he was instrumental in securing our first ambulance. And his son, Matthew Burke, who's over here on the end, he's our assistant fire chief, and he serves Flossmoor with the same love and care that his father served Flossmoor with for 35 years. So thank you for continuing the Burke tradition. John Flanagan says, make us look thin. Thank you. One other proclamation. It is my honor to welcome Vivian Zimmerman and Pam Lesner to accept the Higher Education Month proclamation. I want to thank everybody here. I'm guessing there's a few teachers here or folks that support teachers here. So I want to thank all of our higher education folks and support staff. Vivian is the higher education chair for the Illinois Education Association Board of Directors. And Pam Lesner, she is a librarian at Richard Daley College, where she teaches a wide range of students from straight out of high school to some having a break of 20 years or more. She's incredibly encouraging and knows how to work with students at all levels. She advocates for her fellow teachers locally and statewide because of her deep sense of civic responsibility, and she inspires others to join the fight for the common good. And she's kind of a big deal. She just won the Illinois Education Association Dr. Cheryl Thayer Higher Education Advocate Award. So whereas during October we celebrate National Higher Education Month, which includes universities, community colleges, and technical trades. And whereas higher education plays a critical role in preparing students for success in the workforce. And whereas our community recognizes that quality education is essential to community well-being. And whereas higher education was designed to provide the best possible learning facilities for our students and for succeeding generations thereof. And whereas according to the National Education Association, the future of the workforce depends on education. In fact, 72% of all jobs will require post-secondary education or training by 2031. And whereas we celebrate the dedicated faculty, staff, and graduate workers who fulfill our students' curiosity and ensure they can realize their dreams. And whereas we also celebrate and recognize education support professionals such as counselors, librarians, clerical staff, maintenance and grounds crew, psychologists and social workers, full and part-time professors and adjunct professors, and non-tenured staff. And whereas it is acknowledged in our community that quality education is not acquired in the classroom alone, but also through community involvement and by instilling civic responsibility in students. Whereas our community looks to higher education to educate and to provide sound basis in preparation for adult life. And now, therefore, I, Michelle I. Nelson, Mayor of Flossmoor, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as National Higher Education Month, and encourage Flossmoor residents to be mindful that education is a dynamic entity and that its continued high quality plays a vital role in building the future, one student at a time. Thank you. Next up, can I get a motion to approve the appointments to the Community Relations Commission?
So moved.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go through all the candidates at once, and then I'll open it up for comments from the board. The first candidate is Anna Ty Hayward. She has been a 6-year resident. Prior to living in Flossmoor, she lived in California, but originally she's from Singapore, so she has this beautiful global perspective to add to the commission. She has 2 Homewood-Flossmoor High School graduates and 1 current HF student. She's got a bachelor's in business administration, and she served on the PTO in 161, School District 161, and in advisory roles at Parker Junior High and HF High School. The second candidate is Dominic Smith-Shanley. She's actually been a 23-year resident, and when I talked with her, she commented that she's done a lot of volunteering for neighboring communities, but not her own, so she thought it was time to get involved in the Village of Flossmoor. She has 1 child who graduated from HF High School and a current child at Parker Junior High. She is a registered nurse, and she serves on the Parker PTO. Travis Adams, who is actually here tonight, and I'm sorry if somebody else is here and I missed you, but Travis Adams is here tonight. He's lived in Flossmoor for 4 years and also has quite a global experience. He's lived in Glasgow, the United Kingdom, and St. Louis. He has a Master's of Divinity, and he has extensive work with youth ministry, the elderly, homeless, and vulnerable communities. And then the last nominee, I think she's here, Monica Zachary. She has lived in Flossmoor for 2 years, but she's made quite an impact in that short time. She's now the president of the Flossmoor Service League and a member of the National Council of Jewish Women South Cook section. She's got a Master's of Health Policy and Administration from the University of Illinois, ILL. And before she retired, during her impressive career, she served as senior executive for 3 national health insurance companies as Chief Compliance Officer, Vice President, and Senior Vice President. I will open it up to the board for comments. Trustee Lofton.
Well, I'm always happy to see our residents step up and join the commissions. There is no greater joy to me than having the ability to serve your own community that you live in. And these are opportunities that I'm so thrilled to see people step up to. Even the position that I'm in is they're serving your community. So hats off to you. Glad to see these names, and the experiences sound real good.
Thank you. Trustee Driscoll.
I'm looking forward to see what these candidates bring to the commission. They all seem well qualified, and I welcome them to their service. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Daggett.
So I always, when appointments come up for commissions, it is an often unheralded position to be on these commissions, and there's a lot of work done behind the scenes to help us move forward with things that we need to. And the Community Relations Commission is a critical one for this community. So I'm grateful for anyone who wants to serve in that. I'm also very grateful that we have such a wide range of experiences and perspectives coming on. I think it's critically important that any board or commission has a bunch of different perspectives so that those perspectives can work together to come up with the best solutions and ideas for the community. So to all of you who are putting your name in the hat and willing to serve, thank you very, very much. I look forward to seeing all the great work that you guys do and helping us try and do some amazing things here in Flossmoor. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brenda Scott.
I concur. The Community Relations Commission is the first, usually the first commission, the first interaction that a lot of people have within the village. And so to have such a diverse group of what I think is talent is going to be amazing to have them serve in the capacity with the Community Relations Commission. It looks like they have a unique background, and so what I think of is fresh ideas and approaches, some new things to be brought forward to the community, so I'm looking forward to that. If you don't mind, I didn't know all of the names that you identified for the people that are here. Do you mind standing? Okay. fantastic. So when we see you all out and about, we can interact with and hear your good thoughts of what you're going to do for the Community Relations Commission. And for a overview of the total commission, do you have the names of those that remain? So who makes up the commission today?
We have Chairperson Philippa Leon Thompson, we have Vice Chair Jackie Griffiths, and then we have Molly DeGaw and Kelvin Young.
Thank you. Thank you so much for volunteering to serve.
Thank you. Trustee Mustafa.
Thank you to everyone who is stepping up. Brand new members are really welcome. I know the Community Relations Commission is looking forward to new members. This is a very busy time of year for the commission with the activities for the end of the year. And you're joining the commission just in time to plan the new resident event, which is one of the premier events for new residents who come to Flossmoor. I totally agree with everyone. The various backgrounds, talents, experiences will add quite a bit to the overall group. And thank you many, many times over.
Thank you. Oh, and I forgot to add Marlena Ruffin. We appreciate her service as well. Trustee Mitros.
Nothing else can be said. We're very grateful and thank you for your service. Look forward to working with you all.
Thank you. Clerk Logava, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Bradley Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Daggett?
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll?
Yes.
Trustee Lofton?
Yes.
Trustee Mitros?
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. We have Ms. Tracy Smith, who's here with us today. Thank you, Tracy. She has been a 10-year resident of the Village of Flossmoor. She has an MBA with a concentration in HR. She's also been a regional construction manager for several different groups, and she's looking to uphold the high standards for the village while working with residents to maximize the enjoyment of their property. Thank you so much for applying for this. I will start with comments and questions from Brian Driscoll, Trustee Driscoll.
No questions or comments. Welcome. Thank you for your service. You have an impressive resume. I'm sure you'll fit in perfect for that board.
Thank you. Trustee Daggett.
Just for reference, where are you in the audience?
Flossmoor Green.
So thank you very much for volunteering to be on this commission. I know sometimes you get to deal with some fun neighborly things as well, so in its own way can be some community relations stuff too. But we've had a great board commission, and I look forward to you serving as well. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes, thanks again for putting your hat in the ring to serve in this capacity. It appears that you were willing to serve in many capacities, and this is the one you landed on. So thank you so much. Your experience in governmental, municipal government is going to be a plus, I'm sure. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Trustee Mustafa.
Thank you for stepping up and being willing to volunteer. I like that you have multiple options. That means you just wanted to serve. And that's very encouraging. So with your background, I think HR and construction are a great combination because, as was mentioned earlier, there will be some, face-to-face situations, and maybe human resources will come in handy too. So
Thank you. Trustee Mitros.
Welcome. This is an important board. I just want you to know that the zoning board is the only board that acts as a quasi-judicial committee sometimes, where you actually have hearings and would make judgments. So it's very important to our community. I don't remember the last time that happened. I think I was on the zoning board when that happened. It's been a while. But it is a very important board, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Trustee Lofton.
When I read these applications, I try and start at the top and read down. And I got to the point where she was asked the question, which commission do you want to be on? She named all of them. And as I read further, I looked at her qualifications and I said she could be on. So thank you for joining us. Look forward to working with you.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to move on to citizens present wishing to address the board. And first, I want to welcome Ms. Andrea Perry.
In conclusion, just because the village attorney says it so, doesn't mean it's so. Just because the mayor says it so, doesn't mean it's so. Thank you.
The policy of the village prohibits campaigning during public comment. And it's my understanding you're the treasurer of the political action committee that supported the candidate. I wasn't here, but I understand what Ms. Orr said during the meeting. And I will also be here for anybody that tries to do campaigning. We will have the same opinion. It doesn't mean you cannot criticize public officials. Certainly you can do so during the public comment. But there's a difference between campaigning and criticizing. And this is the worst time for village attorneys because between now and April 1st, it's election season. We all know it. Let's just work together and let the campaigning happen outside the court. Thank you.
Mr. Warren Engelberg.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, I've got just 6 minutes and 5, so I'll keep fast. Warren Engelberg, I live in Flossmoor. Nearly everybody has something to do with colleges and universities. So let's take a look at the financialization of public universities and higher education. The game wasn't invented by Scott Walker, the notorious governor of Wisconsin, who broke public sector unions and massively defunded higher education and K-12 education, sending unions and public sector workers and higher education advocates scrambling to understand how to come to grips with the governor and his regime and his assault on higher education. As much as Scott Walker was a loathsome character, he was merely a willing and eager player in a game who knew the rules. Once you understand the actual financialization of a university, you can no longer say that Scott Walker and Scott Walker alone was the problem, or that he was the cause of what was breaking unions while weakening public education. Scott Walker was incentivized by the rules of a game he did not invent, and the game didn't stop once he left office. And that is the game of the financialization of public education and of financing public education through Wall Street. And what that means for people that work on campuses, for communities that sustain themselves from campus activity, and most of all for students. We have a situation where our public universities and colleges become sites of extraction of profit for banks and commercial institutions through the mechanisms of debt. As our public universities experience drastic cuts in the last couple of decades of public funding, they make up that shortfall by borrowing money from Wall Street, and through this process they become beholden to a shadow system of governance by financial institutions rather than by any semblance of faculty governance, and frankly governance by the administration and board of trustees of these universities. It is through the mechanism of debt and the role of credit rating agencies, just like we as individuals have our credit scores we struggle to maintain. Our public universities and colleges also have credit ratings. And in order to maintain them, they have to conform to a range of conditions that undermine working conditions for workers at the university and undermine students' ability to simply survive college financially. And they promise in these debt covenants to channel all revenue into the repayment of the debt, getting stuck in decade-long cycles of debt repayment, where our universities are promising the future tuition and fees of students who are not yet born. Imagine the gleeful planning of the bankers at the state governments to cut the university that immediately show up, coincidentally 2 days later, with a package of loans given to the university officials so they don't have to end the football season or fire the sociology department or whatever other crazy notions they get. Now they can be rescued by the banks and the story I just told. How is it hurting the education we want for our people that the institution is being financialized in this way? Big picture, it severely limits our imagination of what public higher education is even for. It becomes so narrowly return on investment. Because it's on the back of students that this debt is repaid. In some institutions, as much as a third of student tuition and fees are going to debt repayment. So students are assailed by debt the universities assume, and they're disinclined, understandably, in taking risks in terms of what programs and classes they get to experience. At the same time, programs and departments that could not demonstrate sufficient return on investment get slashed. These are ethnic studies and humanities and all the things that help us imagine a better world. When you cut programs, when you saddle staff for doing the work of 4 or 5 people because of endless layoffs, students suffer. They have untenable students with advisor ratios. They never get to see their mental health counselor. That makes for a really poor experience for our college students. And the consequences are quite great from the institutional level, where we see an increasing rate that universities, especially small universities, are straight up shutting down. Students are left mid-degree with tens of thousands of debt to repay on a degree they haven't even finished earning, and a transcript that will be meaningless. Staff and faculty are without jobs. The guy selling coffee to the students has suddenly lost half his clients. There's a sort of fallout that happens with the consequences of this return on investment mentality from the material to the spiritual and ideological. Old empires collapsed when everybody was in debt. It's the oldest story of human history. When everybody becomes indebted to a handful of people, your system can't function. And we thought, somehow, what might be exempt? But education and schools are being caught up in this network of debt. We saw it already, the students who have to take on crazy amounts of debt. Now it's the institution where the students are studying. They're lost in debt. The bankers are collecting from all of us and diminishing the experience that we have. In China, they're increasing universities. They're building universities left and right. That ought to be a hint to somebody. They understand that's their future. We're shutting down. What does that suggest? And what about the fight against it? Where is it going? Who is getting mobilized? What are the prospects of the fight against all of this? I'll talk about that next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engelberg. I have Travis Adams, but I think he crossed the line. Kevin Dorsey, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Dorsey, 23-year resident of Flossmoor, and I want to say something very positive to begin with. The timeline that Mr. Estelle spoke of, from the action to the apprehension, was remarkable, and that doesn't happen every day. So, applaud you guys. Interim Chief Taylor, Mr. Estelle, great work. However, I have to say this. I understand the thought process behind not alarming a community. I understand the process behind not causing hysteria, especially with something that's already in the works of being resolved. But there's also a thought process that says there's an opportunity to share positive community policing. And that opportunity, I think, should be made at the first possible time. And I say that because between the hours of 5 o'clock and 8:30 p.m., where we thought that we were not causing hysteria, pandemonium, panic within the community, there was at least 9 phone calls and texts that I personally received, one individual, asking what's happening. Why isn't our leadership saying something? And I immediately thought, and I'm saying this to you, but I've also had this conversation, and thank you guys for entertaining with Mr. Estelle and Chief Taylor, the opportunity to say something just as simple as, this has occurred at 1:35. We have the actions of our police force and technology has identified the individual. We think that there's no current threat to the community. We'll bring you up to date when other details are available. I think that's a very positive message. And I think there's just an opportunity for us to look at how we manage our responses and communication. And I think anytime that we get anything positive out at this point, I think it's a value of doing so. All right, so just an observation. The other thing that is a little more critical. I've been here for, like I said, over 22 years. I don't think there's been a time where we've ever had more than 2 police officers on the street at any given time. I don't think it's been in 22 years. I think that's the same number we have now. I spoke to so many residents that don't know that we have 2 officers on the street at any time. Over 2 decades. Things have changed in our city. Things have changed in our state. Things have changed in our country and in our world. If we're still operating on a process that we only need 2 officers on the street, decades later, I'm hoping that we can rethink that. I think when we still try and operate with decades-old philosophies, not only do we jeopardize the residents and the citizens of this community, but we jeopardize our police officers as well. So I know from my time on the Community Relations Commission, there was opportunities where Chief Darrell Jones at the time, Deputy Chief Taylor has presented to us. These are things that we're trying to do. And one of those was the license plate readers, which I know had a huge impact on the success of this. But I think we do need more officers on the street, right? I'm hoping that's something that's in front of you now. And if it is in front of you, I'm hoping that you can move expeditiously in improving that, because it does affect the safety of our residents, and it also affects the safety of the men and women who serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Robert Shepler, welcome.
Thank you for letting me address you guys. I came to talk about signs. My daughter goes to Flossmoor Montessori School, and at the beginning of the school year, I noticed that the school zone was taken down from the southbound side of the street, and so that changes the speed limit, and the speed limit was also increased in that stretch. So it changed from a 20-mile-an-hour zone to a 35-mile-an-hour zone, where across the street you drop off my daughter. I'm not the only one who walks my daughter to school. There are people who have their kids in strollers, who drop off at Montessori and then go to the Western Avenue and Western. So my question is, why did it change, and what can we do to remedy that? And then I have a couple other asks too, but perhaps we could put it back, the signage the way it was, and help ensure the safety of the kids going there. And then look into extending the sidewalk on the western side of the road to the school, so that we can take advantage of the crosswalk with the crossing guard during the school.
Are those all your questions? I wanted you to get through them. Okay, I did see a comment, and I don't remember where it was, but I did notice your comment, and our Director of Public Works, John Bronke, was looking into why that southbound sign is not there anymore. So I don't know if you have a response from IDOT yet or not.
Not yet. We will talk to IDOT and see what happened with that sign. I'm not aware that it was taken down, but it's an IDOT sign. We could request it gets put back up. We could also request the review to see if it could be extended north. So I think that was part of the request that was put in today. We received on email. So we can talk to IDOT about that and get that process moving. They're reviewing another one like this over on Governor's Highway by the high school right now, actually by other roads for us. So.
I appreciate that.
And because it is an IDOT road, it's a state road, the sidewalk request has to go through them.
Yeah, and I realize it's a big ask, and I would appreciate looking into it.
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry if I can't quite do this. Jacqueline Mitchell. Milshek.
I just signed it, I'm sorry.
Okay, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Mayor Nelson, before we proceed with the next person, can we go back to the previous comment? The gentleman was asking if a sidewalk could be installed.
And I told him that it's a state road and that's something that we'd have to ask the state for.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that that was the response, that we were going to follow up with the state and find out. Thank you very much.
And then we have Bernie and Marsha. I think this is Hollitzers, but I don't know that he wants to say anything. Matt Epperson, welcome.
Good evening, my name is Matt Epperson. I live at 1029 Douglas Avenue. Been resident of Flossmoor for 14 years. I've never made public comment. This will be fine with me if it's the last time. I'd like to comment on issues that we've already heard a bit about surrounding the armed robbery that took place. This took place in front of my next door neighbor's house on October 17th at 1:35. This armed robbery, as we have heard, took place in the middle of the day within a block of the village hall, police headquarters, and 2 schools serving hundreds of students. The alleged suspect approached a woman on the street seemingly at random and pulled a gun on her. For all of these reasons, I would argue that this incident is of the highest concern regarding immediate community safety. I should also note that I spoke with both Mayor Nelson and Director of Police Services Estelle on Friday to express some concerns, and I appreciate both of these officials taking the time to talk with me and clarify and two, that the suspect had not done anything else in the immediate area that could raise safety concerns. Both of these assumptions could have been quickly explored by checking in with 3 or 4 households surrounding the location of the incident. Had the suspect approached other houses, was everyone in the immediate proximity okay and safe? Quickly checking in with those close to the incident would have also alerted them about what had happened, so they could make their own timely decisions about their family's safety. This is a major part of my frustration, that an armed robbery occurred right outside my front door, and that I didn't know about it for 3.5 hours. We don't have young children at home, but if we did, I certainly would not have wanted them to be playing outside that afternoon, nor would I think anyone in this room. Both officials stated that the immediate priority was to apprehend the suspect, understandable. However, police knew within minutes that the suspect was no longer in the area and that other law enforcement had taken over pursuit. Given those circumstances, is it reasonable to expect that law enforcement would attempt to check in with those in the immediate surroundings, both to further assess safety concerns and also alert them of the incident? I do believe this is a reasonable expectation. Second, I am concerned about the delay in informing Flossmoor residents at large about the armed robbery. When I learned of the incident at 5 p.m., I was especially concerned because it occurred right outside my house, and I immediately looked for an e-cop or email notification, a social media post by the village, or the police department, anything to gather more information about the incident and any remaining safety issues. There was nothing. It appears that the only information that was shared that day was a brief story at about 8 p.m. in local media. There was also a post by Flossmoor Police the following day. Even if village officials determined quickly that there was not an immediate safety threat, why wait for over 24 hours to communicate this information directly to the public? Wouldn't this information relieve people's concerns? Without accurate information being conveyed by village leadership, its residents are left to speculate, which I think we can all agree is not helpful. For the hundreds of parents picking their kids up from school that afternoon, to the residents at large who heard rumors about the incident, it seems a reasonable expectation that village leadership would provide timely information about the armed robbery. When I asked leadership why the information wasn't conveyed sooner, I was told that they did not want to cause mass hysteria. This is concerning because it seems that a decision was made to not share information because of potential community reactions and backlash, rather than prioritizing transparency about an issue of extreme relevance to our community's safety. I know this brazen incident of violence is a shared concern for all of us. I've also been made aware that the village is implementing a smart 911 system, in addition to the variety of communication tools already in place. However, any of these technologies is only as effective as the decisions made by village leadership to use them. I respectfully request that village leadership prioritize transparency and community engagement, particularly as it relates to serious matters of community safety. Thank you.
As Mr. Epperson alluded to, there is a new rave text alert system, and we've been pushing it out. Please check the village website or social media for information about that. Jessica Crump. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Groen. I live at 2414 Caddy Street. I'm here as most meetings as a League of Women Voters representative. I'm on the Observer Corps, and so I take notes of these meetings. One of the important things about being on the League of Women Voters is that we, as part of our formal activities, when we have a hat on or a pin on, is that we're not allowed to support or oppose any political party or candidate as part of our work in the League. But we are, the League does take positions on political issues, and they take positions on merits of various issues based on their analysis, not as part of a party or campaign affiliation. I thought that distinction was relevant. A lot of people use the word political when they're talking partisan or campaign, but technically political means anything to do with matters of public good. So I felt concerned at the last meeting when two commenters were asked not to speak on political matters. because it could be taken to mean that they can't speak about matters of the public, and that would be a limitation to what citizens are allowed to say. So I'm hoping, I think the clarification given tonight helps. It seems very reasonable that you would not want people to come up here to campaign for a political party or a specific candidate. But I hope that people can still speak to matters of public concern, because that is a very important right for residents, and it's something that the league would want to make sure is happening in meetings. Connected to that, we're so glad that many of the many people in office in Flossmoor are also members of the Homewood-Flossmoor chapter. Because we're entering a season when people are voting, signing petitions, running for office, we'd like to encourage all of our village leaders that are also members of the chapter to make sure that they're separating those two paths. So we don't really want to, as league members, be seen that we're using league activities as ways to promote our campaigns, because that does, it reduces the credibility of the league when we run forums. So make sure that you're not using any images of your fellow chapter members as part of your own political campaigns, so that when a forum comes, that everybody feels good as residents that the league is not there to promote a particular candidate or a particular party platform. Any issues that we raise as League of Women Voters is based on our analysis rather than loyalty to a particular person. So thanks again for welcoming observers here. I think it's a very valuable part of the services that we all bring to each other. So thanks again.
Thank you. Mr. Van Horn.
Good evening, Mayor Nelson, members of the board.
Welcome.
I'm here regarding the branch pickup program, specifically branch pickup last August. I noticed a crew of two picking up the branches down at the end of the street, and decided to walk down and join them to ask a few questions. I found them exceedingly pleasant, very polite, and very, very helpful. They were wonderful ambassadors for the village of Flossmoor. On further reflection, I I understood that they don't work in a vacuum. It is their supervisor, their managers who provided a positive environment to allow their positive attitudes to come forward. And beyond that, it is the mayor, the village manager, and the village board who has the insightfulness to hire the brilliant people that work for Flossmoor. And for that, I commend you all. I have had other experiences with Flossmoor as I pay my bills and deal with the water department. I've had very positive experiences with all, and with the, including the police department, who's been very happy to me on occasion. I just want to express my appreciation and thank you all for the wonderful job you do in making Flossmoor a wonderful place to live. And thank you for this time to you made available for me to address you.
Karen, sorry, Shaw maybe? That is Karen Shaw. Is she there? Yeah, Karen Shaw. Hi, welcome. I should have looked at the address. I wouldn't have been confused.
Hello, I'm Karen Shaw, 915 Burn Lane, and I have no comments at time one, but I concur with this gentleman here. It's great to live here, and the Flossmoor Oktoberfest was fantastic. So thank you, everyone, for the hard work.
Thank you. You have like 4 minutes and 50 seconds left. And Mr. John Flanagan, welcome.
Good evening. I am a proud resident of Flossmoor for only 79 years. And I'd like to bring to your attention that the Brookwood Bridge might be lacking some extra guardrail. I've lived and played in the creek from early years through high school, and there's an opportunity for cars and people to go off the road, off the sidewalk. I'd like you to look into it. I know things move slowly with IDOT, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just calling it to your attention. And thank you for your service on the board. You make Flossmoor a great place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Flanagan. Mr. Brady, could you follow up with Mr. Flanagan on the guardrails?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's all I have for public comment. Moving on to the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Thank you. Is there anything anybody would like pulled off?
Number 6.
Number 7.
Anything else? All right, can I get a motion to approve items number 5 and 8?
Second.
Thank you. Clerk O'Donnell, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the presentation of bills for approval and payment as approved by the Finance Committee dated October 21st, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Since Trustee Mustafa asked for this to be pulled off, I'll ask for her comments first.
I'd like to turn to page 52 of the invoices. And I'm seeking a more full, complete description related to the legal services. It's under Augustin and also House Resolved and Estelle. What is labor? And I think the water detention basin project litigation is self-explanatory. And what is gambling?
Certainly. Gamble is an appeal of an administrative adjudication ticket. So that's that invoice. The labor invoice covers a handful of different matters, some of which are individual personnel matters that we're following up on, as well as the seeking of policy advice from our labor council.
So is gamble related to a resident?
That's their name.
That's their name. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Mitros.
I have no questions.
Trustee Lofton.
No questions.
Trustee Driscoll.
No questions or comments?
Trustee Daggett.
Nope.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
No questions.
Thank you so much. Clerk O'Gallagher, would you please call the roll on the approval of and payment as approved by the Finance Committee of the presentation of bills dated October 21st, 2021?
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve a resolution adopting the 2024 Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Trustee Bradley Scott, I'll let you go ahead and start since you pulled that on.
Yes, I just had a few questions as it pertains to the report. Apparently there are 647 pages to this, and wanted to understand better some of the aspects brought forward. On page 3, actually, that would be page 81 of page 6 and page 81 of the packet. And there were for certain aspects as it pertains to a CRS system and a discount on flood insurance. The line item read that yes, Flossmoor is a Class 7 CRS community, and we are working to improve classification. And I just wanted to understand better what that improvement entails.
I could probably take that one. So the CRS program is our community rating system program, the National Flood Insurance Program. So we participate, it's a voluntary program, CRS. We're a Class 7 community. We're always working to try to improve that class, because as a Class 7 community, any resident has flood insurance in the community gets a discount on the premiums anywhere in the village of Flossmoor because we participate. But if we were to get a higher class, actually Class 1 is the highest. I don't even know if there's one in the state of Illinois, but it's a national program. You actually get a higher discount on flood insurance in a community if we can increase our class. So it involves all our public outreach we deal with through like our water quality report when we put flood information out. It's at events when we hand out information. It's working with residents when we have drainage problems to help them address problems. That's part of the program. So anything we do related to floodplain management or improvement gets us credit in the CRS program, if that makes sense.
Sure. So some of the properties that have been identified as ones where they have some encroachment of water or structural or water damage to property and so forth, as we work through our list, how close are we to improving to the next level?
So none of the smaller drainage projects that we take on as part of a residential drainage program would get us specific, they may give us more points, but it's really the bigger flood control projects a lot that give us the bigger points. We have one project that we're trying to do a buyout for a flood prone property. That alone, that one project would probably kick us up to Class 6. But it depends. It's a combination of many things we do in that program to help us get up to the next level. But it's a balancing act too, because once you get to that next level, you have to continue to do work at that level to maintain that level, if that makes sense. So everything we're doing right now has got us a really good Class 7, but we're always looking at ways to try to get to Class 6. We were close last time, so.
Any of the projects that we've done this year, did that improve anything? Such as
Not really, not to our next cycle visit. So when you get rated, it's not every year. Usually they rate us I think it's every 5 years we get rated by FEMA. They come and actually do a cycle visit where they spend almost a whole day with us going through everything. And that's after we have submitted all our information on the program and stuff we've done in the previous years and what we're doing. So it's a cycle. We can update the board next time we have a cycle come up. I think we just had one last year, I believe, so.
Okay, thank you. And I was looking at the list that was provided, and some of the items went from, on page 91 of the packet. It says new litigation actions, action F-1.23, and some of the items jumped where there were no dollar amounts, or like F-1.4. Does that mean that we met the criteria for that and that one is no longer an issue?
Give me 1 second. So I'm looking at page 93 right now. I'm trying to jump ahead to F1.4. Is that the one you were?
I didn't see an F-1.4.
So F1.4 is probably a project that was completed already. Might have been very late potentially, if I recall. So, so all our big drainage projects are in this list. I put them in this program and update them each year as we have new ones added to the capital program. And then if you're seeing a missing number, that means it's a project that's been completed in the village's capital plan, and we get, basically it's taken off the list. These are the only projects you see in here are ones that we need to do still, or we're in the process of working on that have identified funding. So kind of an important part of this HMP plan, the multi-jurisdictional plan. We participate in this for many reasons, but one big reason is that if we want federal funding on anything, we're required to be in a program, in a plan, and the county provides us for all the towns that participate in it. So by us just participating in this plan, this does help us get federal funding on some of the projects, which is beneficial. It's a question that pops up quite a bit on grant applications as well, so it makes sense.
Okay. And some of the items had cost
we know they're a project, but we don't have a cost yet, we don't put a cost in there. But we can identify them as like a high cost if we know it's a multi-million-dollar project, that's the rough idea. But we only put the information we have in our capital program here, so sometimes we don't have the cost necessarily. Until an engineering study's been done, to know the true scope. That's probably the reason for it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Mustafa?
No, I have no additional questions.
Thank you. Trustee Mitros?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Trustee Lofton?
Just a clarification, John, did you say that it was FEMA that did the CRS rating?
Yes, FEMA does it. They rate us. So FEMA is the one that manages the CRX program.
Thank you. Trustee Driscoll?
No questions.
Thank you. Trustee Day?
No questions.
Thank you. Clerk Logano, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Mitros?
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa?
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Daggett?
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll?
Yes.
Trustee Lofton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We don't have any formal reports of committees, commissions, or boards, but I do want to give a thank you to the Green Commission and the chair of our Green Commission, Tristan Shaw, is here with the plant, not on his back, it's on his lap. But thank you. He chairs the Green Commission, and he also has a nursery that provides some beautiful plants. We planted 100 trees for our 100th birthday on Saturday morning, 23 different species, I believe. So great diversity for our community. Since 2021, we've now planted 600 trees, and that is largely thanks to a wonderful Green Commission. It's thanks to Public Works and specifically Dave Becker, our arborist, so please thank him. And it's thanks to all of you who come out and make a difference by planting trees. So thank you so much, everybody, for your partnership in that. Also want to give a quick shout out to the Art Commission. There's a Flossmoor swag sale through Sunday. I think it's probably the last one of the year. So get your Christmas presents for the ones that you love. More information on that is on our website, and again, it benefits the Art Commission. All right. Next, I think this is what everybody's been waiting for, which is discussion of a landmark project, something that will really set the tone for the next 100 years. We applied for grants. This project was identified back in 2018. We applied for several grants in 2021, 2022, and in 2023 we finally hit pay dirt and got a grant to help us bring this project to fruition. We are anticipating starting in 2025, the spring, summer of 2025. And I want to thank everybody here who was part of the committee that reviewed this project. Several of you have gone around to see this. So thank you so much for your involvement. And with that, Mr. John Brophy, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. So CPD roadway, pedestrian, and streetscape improvements project consists of improvements to the Flossmoor downtown business area along Sterling Avenue, Central Drive, and Park Drive with a primary goal of improving pedestrian and traffic safety and a secondary goal of downtown beautification. The project is being designed by Baxter & Women Consulting Engineers. The project benefits include permanent safety measures following the temporary improvements we made in 2018, slower traffic downtown, maximize parking and bike racks, increased seating, more trees and native plantings, installation of splitter islands, and a truck apron around the existing island that will be redone with the curb around the island and landscaping. In December 2019, October 2020, and November 21, staff and Baxter Women Consulting Engineers brought discussions to the village board on geometric alternatives for the project. Since November 21, much work has been completed on the project plan and design. As part of the project's phase 2 design engineering that began this year, a steering committee was assembled for members of the village staff, Baxter Women, Tesco Associates, who are the landscape architects for the project, business owners, residents, and other governmental agency members. The steering committee met on July 18th and August 14th of this year. At these meetings, the committee was presented with streetscape concepts from Baxter Women and Tesco Associates. The committee considered different concepts and voted on preferred alternatives for consideration by the village board. Baxter Woman is here this evening to present the preferred alternatives for the project to the village board. Following the presentation and discussion, staff will be looking for direction from the board on which alternatives should be included in the final plan. Baxter Woman will then finalize project plans and submit them to IDOT no later than November 25th so that we can be placed on the March 25th IDOT state levy. And at this time, I'd like to hand the mic over to Dan Shook and also Colin McGovern from Baxter Woman to do the presentation, and then we'll follow up with Q&A at the end.
Thank you, John. Good Mayor, Board. I'm glad to be back. It's been a couple of years. I hope you remember me, but only in a good way. I think the Mayor said it best. I look at this as a legacy project, and John alluded to that a little bit too. I think the last time we made any improvements in this area was 2012 with some lighting improvements. Prior to that, I believe it was the mid to late 90s, I believe, when the awnings were put up. So just think in the last 30 years, we put up awnings and we've done some street lighting. Now we're talking about refreshing the whole thing. So I don't know about 100 years, but I'm very, very confident that I will be retired when you look at any of these. And no, I'm not that young, so it's not that out of the question. And I may even be gone from this earth when we look to redo this. So keep all of that in mind when we go through this presentation. All right, spoiler alert, this is the same slide that I've presented to you 3 times. I'm presenting it a 4th time tonight. It is incredibly important. It is the project purpose. And the first thing on that list is improving safety. This started as a safety project. It has continued as a safety project, and I would like it to keep as a safety project. After that, we do want to improve traffic flow. And lastly, and I think that's why everyone's here tonight, we want to talk about streetscape and how it's going to look. So tonight, I'm going to give you a brief project history. I want to fly through that. Please tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast on it, but I want to get to the guts, which is really the streetscape design. We are going to talk project costs, and then we'll go over some schedule and instructions to each items. All right, this project started in 2017. It started as a traffic analysis memo trying to address pedestrian safety. And that's the image on the right-hand side is the interim improvements that we recommended in 2017 that I believe were implemented in 2017 or 2018. 2018, thank you. After that, we went looking for funding for this larger project. We spent the last few years looking for that funding. As the Mayor said, we had paid her once in 2018. We're able to start phase 1 engineering. That is wrapping up right now. Right? It's going to go into IDOT for signature this week. And then we, like I said, had paid her again and found some phase 2 engineering in 2024 and have started the actual design. An abbreviated list of meetings that we've had for this project. It is incredibly conservative. I said 8 village staff meetings. It's probably more like 16 to 20. But we have gone over this project time and time again. All right, history round 1. We were given a blank slate when this project started. It was a, what can we do, what should we do? We came up with some inside-the-box ideas. We came up with some outside-the-box ideas. We presented these ideas to village staff, had a lovely discussion. We moved 3 of them forward to the village board. History round 2, these are what we were calling the refined intersection alternatives. Alternative 1 is basically implement permanent safety measures like we've done with the temporary, but make them permanent, excuse me. Alternative 2 was, I will say, get rid of the teardrop and put in a 4-way standard intersection. Alternative 3 was install a mini roundabout. That was presented at the December 2nd, 2019 village board. The village board came back and said, we would like the teardrop to stay. Please investigate, please look at more alternatives, but keep our teardrop. 14th, 2020, we came back to the village board and presented these 4 alternatives. 3 of them involved a teardrop. One of them, I was still trying one last shot at a roundabout. It failed miserably. Lovely, but miserably. Village board chose the upper left, which I affectionately refer to as alternative 1-2A. No, 1A-2, sorry. Messed that up. So, and really the things that came out of that meeting were the board still liked the teardrop, very much wanted to maintain existing traffic movements, wanted to maximize the parking to the greatest extent that we could. And at that meeting, it was decided the mailbox did need to be relocated from the teardrop. We're going to fast forward, and I'm calling this history around 3.1. We made some subtle changes in about a year, over the course of a year, but staff asked me to come back to the board on November 1st. There was a little bit of board turnover, there were some new faces, and rather than move and finalize the phase 1 design, we wanted to come back and say, basically, are you sure? Make sure all the board members knew what was proposed previously and to see if there were any changes. I don't believe I asked for a roundabout at that meeting, but I might have. Still probably fell flat. The 5 big bullets on the right side are still key to this project. Again, maximize parking, maintain that teardrop. It's very much a feeling of Flossmoor. Again, relocate the mailbox, install the splitter islands, and then enhance the streetscape. I know that's what everyone wants to talk about, but I do want to make sure we get our history down. At that meeting, I promised I was going to go out and look for funding. And I said I will come back to you when we have funding and when we have some streetscape ideas to present. That date on there says November 2023, so hi, my name is Dan, and I'm back 3 years later. So, we talked a little bit about funding. Just wanted to recognize all the effort that staff went into. Staff and B&W, we worked very hard finding funding. We were able to find partial funding for phase 1 engineering, which is what the study was. That all the alternatives that I just showed you, that's what funded that. That came from Invest in Cook. Invest in Cook was gracious enough to give us another round of funding to partially offset the phase 2 engineering, which is where we are now. We're putting design plans together and we're getting ready to come up with it. And then the wonderful great news is that our second application to ITEP, IDOT runs this Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program. Second try, we were able to secure $1.1 million for this project. There were 8 funding applications. I'm listing the 3 that we were successful on, but there were 8, call it 5 ways on how not to make a light bulb, if I can kind of quote Edison. Just trying to find funding for this project. So, everything from here on out, the board has not officially seen yet. So here's the new stuff. All right, so I said we started phase 2 design earlier this year. One of the first things we did was put together a steering committee, and when I mean we, it was really the mayor and the administrator. A couple of the committee members are here. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. The steering committee was comprised of about 20 members. It was a diverse background of individuals. It included local residents, including our local UPS driver, who also lives in Flossmoor, downtown business owners, village staff, representative from the library, planning commission rep, the village arborist, and green committee. All in this boardroom sitting around talking about ideas. We met twice. I showed those dates previously. I was once in July and once in August. At our first meeting, we presented the steering committee with these three alternatives. A traditional streetscape design, which looks a lot like what was out there now. The trees are about the same spacing, adding a little bit of brick into the sidewalk to match the style of buildings that we have. There was a masonry concept, which had a lot of masonry seat walls in it, much more of the look of stone and some more vertical aspects to it. And then the third one was a village branding, where we kind of took and said, where can we put Flossmoor? Where can we put our tree logo? What can we incorporate into downtown? So we received some fantastic steering committee, and I'm not trying to suck up here, but it was the best steering committee that I ever hosted, and I have done a few. Wonderful consensus from the group, and I just wanted to go over the actual, and I hate words on slides, but these were the words from the steering committee, and so I want the board to see this. The steering committee was very concerned about maximizing bike racks. They wanted to see as many bike racks as they could. They wanted fewer trees and larger planters, both for the health of the tree, and this would allow us to space out the tree planters and give more, allow more use of the sidewalk area, or allow varying uses of the sidewalk area. They really liked the seat walls, but they didn't want them to be overdone, and they did want to make sure there was anti-skateboard treatment on them. Natives plantings were a big focus. Like the village branding concepts, but they really didn't want it in the pavement or in the stone. They wanted it more on site furnishings, so that if our lovely tree changes in a few years, we're only changing out a bike rack and not resurfacing the road. They loved the teardrop seating. They actually wanted to expand the teardrop seating. The library was a big focus, and I hope I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but I think it was about the favorite thing. They really wanted to see something done with that library frontage, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But there was also a safety aspect brought up that we were not aware of in previous phase one, where the area in front of the library is used as a pickup and drop-off area, which is a vehicle stopping in the middle of an intersection, which is not a safe thing at all. So we wanted to do something that would discourage that, make the library a nice space, and discourage that pickup drop-off tendency that we were seeing. They wanted to maintain or expand the dining area within the sidewalk. And I say within the sidewalk, the committee was not necessarily interested in we'll call it permanent bump outs, where we take up parking spaces in the middle all year round. They're much more focused on keeping it in the existing sidewalk footprint. With the exception of one area, they wanted to expand a bump out, and I'll show you a picture of a bump out, so we're all clear on what it is. They wanted a larger pavement area at the corner of, a larger sidewalk area at the corner of Flossmoor and Street. All right, so we took all of those ideas, and I know I read them off, but they were really important from the steering committee. We took all those ideas, and what really happened, we created a preferred concept that took a little bit from each of the three alternatives that we had presented initially. They liked aspects of all of them. And we kind of thought that was going to happen, but it was really nice to see the steering committee say, hey, we really like this from the traditional concept. We also wanted this from masonry. Can we put these together? And the answer was absolutely yes. So we went back, we combined based on the we refined into a new preferred concept that we presented to the steering committee based on that feedback that we received. So this is the preferred alternative. It was presented very similarly to what was shown at the steering committee with a couple tweaks. This presentation the steering committee did not see yet, but it was based on their comments from that last meeting. Am I able to do a little tour? Can you zoom in? 5 trees on that side of the street in this proposed condition. Again, to allow for the sidewalk space to be better utilized. The trees on the Metro side station are all to remain. We're not affecting any of those. They're actually off of village right away anyway. You can see the teardrop is still the same shape. I do want to point out, I'll go into a little bit more detail, but this is the expanded library seating area. And then improvements along Center Drive and Park Drive. I'll get to Park Drive in just a moment. On Center Drive, I do want to point out existing, there is a sawtooth pattern with tree grates and the angled parking. That is a bit of a maintenance headache. It's causing some multiple drainage inlets in it. We are proposing taking that out. It's a little bit more uniform. It will match the style. We're not affecting the number of parking spaces, just taking out the sawtooth pattern. All right. I keep saying I'm going to zoom into some of these details, but I do want to pause because a big part of the reason we're here is to talk about project costs. So the current cost estimate for the preferred alternative is just over $2 million. We have secured 1.18 million in ITEP funding, which was a great funding source, but it does not cover all of it. ITEP is a local match program. They will put in 8%, so the village has to put in a 20% local in order to secure the max ITEP funding. So that is that required local match for ITEP. That's just under $300,000, which leaves $574,000 of additional unmatched funding that the village would have to fund at 100%. Total bottom line here is $870,000 for construction and construction engineering. Basically, to fund the construction project from here on out would require $860,000 from the village. John's going to come and talk to you about what we have currently budgeted, or do you want me to go through that? Okay. And then you'll have to hear my voice again, sorry.
Yeah. So right now in our finance and facilities plan and the capital plan in the back of the budget document, we have $347,000 and some change for this project. Out of that 347, included in the FY25 budget is $267,000. So we do have an additional $80,000 in finance and facilities for the project that's slated for it, but not in the budget. So something to keep in mind. But there are obviously a little over $500,000 in decisions to make this evening with these options. So at this point, I'll let Dan walk through those options, and then we can talk some more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess we could do over this now too. Another funding consideration. Currently in the FY25 budget, there's $744,000 and some change budgeted for the water supply improvements project, which is a multi-year project we have planned. The $744,000 is engineering and cost for the skate improvements for the water system to begin that program. Basically, after a water meter project that's recently was just completed in August, we're already seeing positive impact to the water fund and billing, which is a good sign. The meters are performing as we were hoping they would. So basically, by looking at this, we're estimating staff, after reviewing a review through finance department, we're estimating we could probably budget or move $350,000 of that money back to the water sewer fund. So that is an option the board could consider this evening if they want to fund these additional recommendations or alternatives. We also have $1 million available in the general fund balance that's unallocated for. So that's money that could be allocated for any project, or this partially part of it maybe for this project. It's something for the board to consider or at least keep in mind. But I would also caution that we do want to keep in mind that there are other obviously projects in the capital plan that are unfunded that could use funding as well. So And we also, another part of this, not part of this project, I shouldn't say it that way, but something we do have to deal with, is we have that 15-inch sanitary sewer on the Civic Center that needs to get relocated before we do this project, and that's being looked at already for base sheets and design, so we can bid it out this winter, hopefully for early spring construction for this project. We're anticipating that could be funded out of our water sewer fund, or possibly, depending on what the scope is, we don't have that determined quite yet, but we're hoping we can do it completely out of the water and sewer fund. So at that point, I'll hand it over to Dan.
All right, as I promised, we're going to go into some of the alternatives, and I will explain the format of this slide. It'll match the next 5 slides. What I want to show you is the upper right is the existing condition. It's based on a standard aerial, what's out there right now. The lower right is what I call the village board approved geometrics. I believe that was the last time I was here, the November 21 meeting. And then the center is what was proposed by us in the steering committee. So the first one is the library, and I will say it is the big ticket item here. You skip down, you see it's $215,000. But a real quick description, as opposed to the parkway, and I'm using my mouse a little bit over here, as opposed to the parkway being grass. The steering committee said, hey, we would like a little bit more of a venue space. We'd like to fill that in. However, that can almost encourage more pedestrian in that pickup and drop off if we put the sidewalk all the way to the curb. So we were proposing a seat wall, I'm going to say 2.5 feet off of the curb, to act as a bit of a barrier. Think of it as a sitting facing the library, you could participate in one of the venue activities. On the opposite side is landscaping that I've asked our landscape architect to make very prickly and not pleasing to be sitting on or around. With that, there were some additional seat walls on the back side. So I counted 3 seat walls in this area. One large at the road, and then 2 adjacent to the library, again to kind of create this kind of a triangular space in front of the library. I'm going to go forward and then I will go back just so we understand what we're looking at. If you were standing at the Metro driveway looking west towards the barber shop, this is what you would see. On the left would be the teardrop. On the far right would be the library. And working from right to left, either the existing stairs coming down the library, those are to remain, along with that brick wall that's there. The existing benches. This would be that first set of seat walls. That's right, that's by the library. There is a small area for landscaping, but this entire area would be sidewalk. That seat wall adjacent to the curb that I had mentioned before. And then landscaping between the actual roadway curb and the seawall. And then making that, just kind of making a place at the library. So, what do we gain from this? We gain that venue area, additional seating. We are deterring the pickup drop-off area. I can't say prohibiting because people are still going to do things, but this would be a very good deterrent towards that pickup and drop-off area. There is a library parking lot on the other side of the building. That is where we want folks to be picking up and dropping off from the library. We do lose a little bit of green space. We're going to lose a little bit of grass by doing this. And we do lose 2 of those existing trees, although according to the village arborist, health is in decline. So, cost of this improvement, said this was not part of the original village geometrics improvements. So this is an additional $215,000. These costs are included in the $2 million number that I presented to you before. So not in addition to. All right, second one I want to look at, Park Drive improvements. There is grass between the existing sidewalk and the back of curb. When that's utilized for parallel parking, we have adjacent, I believe the business owners, some of the adjacent residents actually said, hey, my customers are walking through the mud to get to my storefront. Do you think you could put some sidewalk there so they don't have to walk through the mud? The steering committee liked that idea as well. So we extended the project limits from what we showed you back in November 21 to include all of Park Drive. It does allow for 3 additional tree planters in that area. I think it brings that space, makes it a part of the downtown a little bit more maybe than it does today. Really makes it part of that downtown. Like I said, the easier access to the parallel parking. We do lose a little bit of green space, and I say we lose one existing tree, and that is true, but we also gain 3 more with the proposed. So it's actually a net gain of 2 trees. Cost of this extension is $75,000. The Flossmoor bump out that I zoomed into before, Flossmoor Road and Sterling, that's the intersection that we're looking at. Again, north is to the right. A little bit hard to see on my end. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for everybody. But you can see where the angled parking stops. The existing curve just continues around from Sterling Avenue on to Flossmoor. And because we were looking at maximizing parking, we continued that in the village approved geometrics. However, and I do say however in a good way, the steering committee looked at this and said, hey, this is a great opportunity to create another space, another gathering area. It does also create a much shorter pedestrian crossing. You'll see the pedestrian no longer has to walk the additional 19 or so feet on the asphalt. They are on the sidewalk. So there's a safety aspect to this as well. We gain a seating area. We gain another landscaped area that wasn't there before. We do lose 2 parking spaces with this concept. There are 2 additional ones. There was no way to create an area large enough to use without taking those 2 spaces. And the cost of this is about $55,000. I believe, 2 more, and then we get to that, and I get to ask a bunch of questions. The east side bench seating area. This is right next to, just for bearings, this is right next to the big stairs going up to the brewery. All in village right of way, but these are the, these are the stairs leading to the brewery. It was noted that there was a decent amount of pickup drop-off area, that these parallel parking spaces were sometimes used as a pickup drop-off, and that a seating area could be beneficial in this area. It is all within the existing right-of-way, but we would gain another small seating area, a little bit of landscaping behind it. And I say nothing notable to lose, but it's really just a pretty steep slope with some sparse grass on it right now, so not too much in the loss category. Cost of that is $16,000. Last one is the teardrop expansion, and this again came direct from the steering committee. It was noted that folks love to use the circular area that's in the teardrop now, and sometimes when someone's walking in and wanting to sit down, there isn't another bench available, and they have to go somewhere else. So the thought was to create an additional seating area south, basically around the existing flagpole, which is to remain, just to create one more seating area in this space. We do lose a little bit of landscaping area in space. We do gain that seating area, and due to the cost of the bricks, I know this is a very small area, but to match the memory bricks that we have there, this is about a $15,000 add. So, summary slide. Nothing new on this slide. This is just a summary of the costs that we just talked about. Everything adds up. to $376,000. These are engineers' estimates, mind you, we've not gone up to bid. And a refresher on the village's share as currently designed is $870,000, with, like John said, about a little over $500,000 worth of decisions to make. So I can talk a little bit about schedule right now, or we can talk costs and budget. I will leave that up to the mayor and administrator. Would you like me to go through schedule, or do you want to talk schedule later?
Briefly, yeah, I think schedules are good.
Okay. Final plans are due November 24th to IDOT. That's IDOT's deadline, not ours. A March 7 bid opening, March 7, 2025. During the winter and the spring, we're going to start picking out, I call it picking out colors because that's really what it is. A little bit of the nuances in the design and color just to make sure we're matching things. We want to get a contractor on board and get an exact match of the color palette so we know exactly what shade of red or brown or what not to use. We need to wait for the contractor to get there. So that'll be happening in the winter and the spring. And then construction is going to occur starting probably in May. It'll be a little bit up to IDOT and the contract processing that has to be done in Springfield. It's probably about a May start, and this project will run through October. So plan on the downtown being a bit of a construction site all next summer. We're mitigating it the best that we can. I will say there are provisions in there, in the contract documents, that the contractor needs to maintain pedestrian access to every business all the time, no matter what. And that includes when concrete is being poured up against your door, they will have ramps installed so someone can walk over the fresh concrete. The other aspect of that is parking. We do need to allow the contractor to work, but we want to make sure we have some parking in the downtown. We still want folks to come. So what we're doing is restricting the contractor. We're only allowing them to shut down half of the parking at a time. Actually, let me rephrase. Parking on one half of the street at a time. So if they're closing the diagonal parking on Sterling, parallel parking on the opposite side of the street needs to be open and maintained for residents, businesses, patrons. And the flip side of that is also true. So it will be sometimes a little bit less than half of the parking that is out there right now, but we do have to allow the contractor to work. So there is a tight balance that we need to maintain to make sure we can get the project done in one construction season as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sugar. Can you explain some of the other communities where you've done similar projects to this in?
Yeah, nice softball question. Plainfield, Illinois Street, that's probably the closest to this. We've done a number in Northbrook. Test guy will tell you it's probably done, I'm going to say it's probably done 100 in the Chicagoland area, which is why their landscape architect we brought out for this project. I apologize, I'm baffling on that. Plainfield, Northbrook, we've done a little bit in Marengo. Actually, I'm selling Plainfield short. It was 3 separate projects in Plainfield. We're doing that entire downtown area. There's quite a few.
So all while keeping the stores open, so you understand
Correct,
the
yes.
need to keep the stores open.
Actually, thank you. Western Springs, which is my most recent one. Of course, I forget the one that was just bid a month ago. We are using basically these exact same construction notes to say, hey, ramps during construction, access to front doors all the time, no matter what. At no time should a patron ever be turned away from a business due to access.
And then obviously the biggest one here is the library. What's the cost driver for that? What's the biggest cost?
I'm going to go back to it. I will say seat walls So it is a masonry short wall right at seating height. It has a concrete foundation that goes down. It has a brick veneer on the side, again, color to be determined, and then usually either a concrete or a limestone cap. These are very permanent things. By nature, though, that also makes it costly. Colin, what's the cost for the library seawalls? Just the library seawalls? No, just the library walls. 130, 136. Yeah. The seawalls, yeah, I just want to make sure I'm in the mic. The sea. How many feet? Any feet on this? Yeah, because of the IDOT process, I would love to call it a linear foot and measure it in a vertical square feet. So it's 88 square feet.
Or the base of the
Vertical square feet.
Oh, and then what is it, 24 feet?
Oh, is it planned? Oh, it's 20 square feet. So 88 square feet of seat wall. You're probably talking 50-ish. Don't quote me on that. $136,000 for the seat walls at the library. These are very permanent structures. Back when I started this, I said the word legacy. These are things that are going to be around. We don't. If we wanted it around for 100 years, I need to build it so it's around for 100 years.
All right, thank you. I'm going to take comments from the trustees. I'm going to start with Trustee Daggett, and if you could go down the list in order, this sheet, on what you would cut or what you have a question of.
Sure, let me get back to that picture real quick.
So starting with Library Plaza for this meeting.
All right, yeah, so first off, thank you so much for the steering committee for all of your work and input. I think the more people you have involved in something, the better the idea typically comes out. There's a lot of really, really cool ideas in here. Just so you guys kind of know, my thinking is evaluating all of these components, safety absolutely first, then the usability for the residents and small businesses, and at the end, the aesthetics, which we'll get the aesthetics right if the other two work. So as far as the library plaza, I know that's the big one, it's the first one on the list. I appreciate the breakdown of the 136,000 is the seating. One question I do have is with the landscaping and the brick on the seating being so close to the road, how much concern do we have about road salt affecting both the vegetation and then the diminished lifespan of the brick? Because brick's a little bit more porous, so when that salt gets in it, you get the freeze-thaw cycle, that salt can stall the brick. Has there been any thoughts about that side being just concrete, which is easier to seal and prevent road salt from attacking it? What's thoughts on that?
Well, you did mention sealers. These are sealed for the specifications.
Okay.
Similar to how you would seal concrete, you seal brick the same way.
Okay.
So there are sealers that are applied, and I would imagine there's a little bit of maintenance when you do brick. There's more maintenance with brick than there typically is with concrete. So I would plan on some sealing, and I'm going to defer to our landscape architect, and I can get back to you on the exact maintenance cycle for that.
I can give a little bit of that. So typically split face block is going to be 8 to 10 years. You have to reseal. Anything that's going to be a little closer to grade is probably going to be closer to 5 to 7 years. Yeah, okay. So if there were that would be one concern I have. So if the sealer is going to be effective and then it's a nominal cost to reseal it, it's not a lot of square footage, so it shouldn't be too bad. Then I'd be okay with that. It's just trying to devise out the cost of those seating is huge. However, when I look at that space, I think that seating really does help prevent that safety issue of people being dropped off. And I've seen it many times where a car stops and you got cars whipping around it, and that was kind of one of the issues we had when the pedestrian got hit was a car moving around the outside of another car. So anywhere we could avoid that in that teardrop turnabout, it's not a roundabout.
Teardrop.
The teardrop, yeah. Anything we could do to prevent that and promote dropping off into the parking lot would be fantastic. So I like that one. I like that it creates another entertaining space, a place for the kids who are coming from Parker to sit down and, get what they just got from the candy store and hang out. Having a place for them to congregate, I think is good. So I generally would be in favor of that. Any cost savings that we can come up with to make that ticket not as high would be great, but I don't know how we can do that.
What about getting rid of the north seating wall? So keeping the seating wall around the road, near the road, but getting rid of those two north sections.
That would be great. And that's something that if we really wanted to put something in later, we could do that, or maybe something less expensive like a steel bench that went across that way. If that saved a significant amount of money, that would be great. And then just a masonry wall on the street side, that'd be fantastic.
Those two seat walls, the library seat walls are $67,000.
Okay.
So eliminating them, again, you could probably put a bench in there,
Right.
which are a couple thousand, but we're probably talking about a $60,000 savings.
Yeah. I think that would be good to kind of knock the cost down a little bit. That'd be fantastic. With the park drive improvements, I'm sorry, to be more positive in my answer, I would be in favor of the Library Plaza space. If we could knock that 67 out, I would really like that. That would be good. As far as the park drive improvements, I understand the grass. I've actually stepped out into that before and messed up my nice new ideas. I think having that concrete that goes all the way across, I think especially for residents who utilize pulling up to drop off things at the post office, that'd be fantastic. Is there any? So right now there's the grass primarily in front of the post office is what I've noticed has gotten fairly messed up. Is there any way to concrete that and leave grass from that point down? How much would that even save?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to go back and look at that. Part of that $75,000 is really in the planters.
Okay.
And then the resurfacing of the road as well. Because we're gonna pull up the curb and the sidewalk and make it one nice finish.
So if you only did a portion of this, maybe a nominal cost as far as.
Yeah, so I would, and I'm spitballing a little bit, but you go to the first planner, that's probably $25,000. You go to the second planner, it's probably another $25,000. Third planner, another 25, and rough numbers.
Okay. The reason I think that one might be a little bit more expendable in my mind as far as the planters and things like that is because it's not really a safety issue over there. It's more of a convenience issue. So if we had to cut costs to make this work, that'd be an area that I would be okay with being one of the first things to drop off. The Flossmoor Road bump out. I like that idea. One of the concerns that I have with creating a seating space down there is I spent quite a bit of time, I used to have an office a couple windows down from there. I've seen cars blow through that stop sign at 50 miles per hour. It's frightening. My concern is if we have people sitting there and that happens during the day, there's an accident where someone gets T-boned and it goes into that, there's nothing to stop that car from going up on the sidewalk. So if we can put bollards in to prevent the impact of a vehicle going into that seating area, if that is that would be a safety concern that I would have to make sure that those are in place to prevent a car in an accident going up onto that seating area.
We did not see in our crash investigation, we did not see that accident. So.
It wasn't an accident. I just saw.
That crash. Yeah.
Yeah. I have. There's been a couple small accidents, but I almost got T-boned by a car that blew that stop sign at 50. And I luckily heard it coming through the tunnel. Had that happen, both cars would have went right up on that sidewalk.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So if we could add some bollards there to prevent an accident from going onto the sidewalk, I think that would be fantastic. I like the idea of the shortened, so I actually really like the bump out. I'd be totally in favor of the bump out if we could add some obstruction for cars. That'd be fantastic. The east side bench, I can lose that. There's no safety benefit to that at all. It's just an aesthetics thing. So if we could drop 16 grand off for that, I'd be totally fine with dropping that off. And then the teardrop expansion would be nice to have that, but I don't think it's something that's completely necessary. So if we needed to drop a little bit of cash off for something else, I'd be okay with that going away. I would like to keep the teardrop expansion, but if we're trying to pinch some pennies on the project, I'd be okay with that going away as well. So, would you like to recap?
No, I got it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Bradley Scott.
So thanks for the presentation. We did have an opportunity to review this before tonight's meeting, so thank you for providing those details. As far as the library plaza, for me, I would say taking away one of the permanent seating aspects would probably be beneficial to cut down on the cost. The way that you describe the pick up and drop off situations happening on occasion, I think is favorable to have them come off to the side opposed to where it is now, so that it creates a barrier. If we were to have one the south wall would probably be more beneficial to create that barrier or some kind of trees there so that it discourages people from walking that way. I think that's beneficial. And the way it was described as a congregational opportunity for events, I think that could be promising. I think that was all for that one for me, for the library. For Park Drive, now as we think about the safety component for Park Drive, my recollection, and I was just at the post office, but I'm trying to think, there's there are those white
Delineators.
Yep. Thank you. So I wasn't really sure where the safety component came in for this particular side in the current version that's here.
Yeah, let me describe that a little bit. So where you see, and you were just there, there's a white painted line and those delineators on the pavement. That is about where the sidewalk is now going to come out to. So the sidewalk in that area is going to get substantially larger. And yeah, so basically this entire white striped area is going to get turned into sidewalk. And that's going to, I'm going to use the word choke, and it's in a good way, it's going to choke down that traffic lane. It causes, anytime you have a narrow road, your tendency is to slow down, and that's what we want vehicles to do. We want them to slow down. So we are narrowing these road approaches on all of the approaches. We're narrowing the road wherever we can, just big enough to let a truck get through barely and make our lovely resident delivery drivers' job a little bit harder, but it is for a safety benefit. So that's where you're seeing that. That's why that sidewalk is so much bigger in front of the barber shop.
Understood. And so is that a tree near the stop sign area? What is that there?
That's a tree, a proposed tree.
It looks like a bridge going over it, so I just wasn't sure.
Oh, that is a seat wall to define to delineate is probably bad word, delineators, but to separate the sidewalk area from the landscape area and provide another space to sit at that expanded corner.
So if that is the case, as Trustee Daniel was saying, in case someone is speeding or not paying the right attention there, what is the opportunity for them to be at a pedestrian with their backs turned that are sitting there? Because it comes into the roadway a bit?
It does come into the pavement area. It is, I will say, protected by the parallel parking spaces. So a vehicle would have to veer into the parallel parking space to actually go onto the sidewalk.
Okay. And so the $75,000 price tag is essentially because the concrete just became expansive in that area.
Yeah, you'll see that the previous project limits ended about at the post office. And we were asked to extend those basically the entire park.
So I get that one. All right, the Flossmoor Road bump out. I am actually fine with that one there, the bump out. The east side bench, in my opinion, that is something that could be eliminated. And the teardrop, in my opinion, I would not add additional seating because what I noticed driving through is that everyone is distracted looking at what's going on in the circle there. And so I would not add a distracting factor for the drivers. So I would eliminate that.
I'm sorry, Trustee Bradley Scott, for the park drive improvements, would you keep that or would you eliminate that?
I would keep that.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Mustafa.
Thank you. Starting with the library plaza placemaking, I would agree that if we remove the north seat wall, that would save considerably. The two seat walls, and replace them with benches. Okay. I like the idea of it being a place for, more place for our concerts or events. So I have a question about the seat wall that's right along the roadway, and that's intended to stop drop-offs. But if someone, possibly someone younger, is sitting there, all they have to do is just swing their legs over, because that's what I would do if I was 15. I would just swing my legs over and get in the car. I wouldn't even think about it because I'm agile and I'm 15 and my mother's there. So can we replace that seat wall with really, really annoying bushes, shrubs? Okay. So if I had a bench there instead and tried to climb over the bench or swing my legs around, I would be entangled. I'm not sure the seat wall is going to solve the drop-off problem.
So completely, I would agree with you. And I can't physically stop everyone from jumping over the seat wall.
No, we can't. But I'm just saying, to me, a young person is not going to be deterred.
We do have landscaping between it. The balance that we do have to create, I can't make that landscaping or the seat wall too high because I need vehicles to be able to see around that corner.
Understood.
So there's a balance between making it not pedestrian friendly, but still allowing sight distance for vehicles.
And maybe 3 feet tall bushes annoyingly difficult to just climb over.
I will bring that back to our landscape architect.
With benches set in front of them. If we want the seating, we can put the benches and then the bushes instead of a seat wall and the bushes. I'd like to take out all the seat walls. Even though they're beautiful, ideally, we have so many other flood mitigation projects to work on, so many other infrastructure projects to work on. I just like not to have to find money for, and because of where we are with our finances. That's just my thought. it's an aesthetic that in a perfect world makes sense, but I don't think we should spend the money on it. Regarding the park drive improvements, are those seat walls, like the trees show seat walls?
That is a curb planter. You're talking about where the trees are?
Where the post office is on Park Drive, is that are those seat walls?
Where my mouse is,
Yes.
that is one seat wall,
Yeah.
right there.
And,
But these are curb planters.
okay, so how much is that one seat wall?
Sure, both. Is that $13?
Just the one, just the one that's shown there. Yeah, maybe the
So-
mention, there's other seat walls that we aren't talking about.
Yeah, there are a number of seat walls out
On
here.
what park?
On the entire project.
No, I'm just talking about park.
This one is 48,000.
And what can we put there instead? A bench or wrought iron fencing?
Or neither.
Okay, so no seat wall there, that's 48,000. That's my thought. I like the idea of the bump out because and take Trustee Daggett's comments about the bulwarks for safety. But I like the idea of the bump out because when you back out of those spaces, the first two spaces, you're right in the flow of traffic for somebody coming around the corner. And the bump out moves you away from the intersection, so the person turning left does not come in as close to someone backing out. So for safety reasons, I would keep the bump out. I would not want the east side bench seating. We can put a regular wrought iron bench.
That's what that is there,
Yeah, I-
improvements here, right? Yeah.
We don't have to put a retaining wall and cut into the,
We might have to,
Right.
have space for it, yeah.
We would have to put in some sort of retaining wall.
so then let's eliminate that altogether and eliminate the teardrop expansion. And so that would be 15,000 plus 16,000 plus 48,000 plus whatever the cost is of getting rid of all the seat walls in the library area to save. Okay. That's my thought.
Thank you. Trustee Mitros?
So John said we've got another 340,000, another 420,000. So we're almost there, but I mean, there's real money. I don't want to spend it. I agree with Ron's on the seat benches. The bushes, it's got to be aesthetically pleasing too. So no matter what we put there, someone's going to stop there and kids are going to hurtle over your bushes or the seat wall or a barbed wire fence. They're going to get over it. So I'm in favor of half of the seat wall there. Because aesthetically it's got to look good. But benches on the other side. The other areas where we have seat walls, get rid of them all. $48,000 at that corner. Are you kidding me? Put a bench there. We'll be fine. And I don't know where the other seat walls are, but I would say erase them. I like the one in front of the library. There's a bunch. And the benches. Park Drive, I have no problem with getting rid of that sod. It's just a disaster in the wintertime when it's wet and muddy and it's deterrent and it's not safe either. It's just a terrible bog. I've been on this board for a long time and we have fought to get parking spaces and to not give up parking spaces. And to cavalierly say that bump out of Flossmoor Road would give away 2 parking spaces, I will never vote for it. I don't want it. I want those 2 parking spaces. We can't just give away parking spaces like that. That's my feeling on it. So I say get rid of the bump out. We have trains, commuter trains that go by at 50 miles an hour. And that's much more dangerous with hundreds of people sitting on the deck than some guy running through a stop sign. I've never seen one going 50 miles an hour. It may have happened. And it does happen, but you can't protect everyone all the time from everything. All our trees look horrible. I don't want that, and I don't want the bump out, and I won't vote for anything with that bump out. I will the east side seating, I'm very cautious about that hill. And I've talked to John about this. That hill is there for a purpose. It's a man-made hill, and it's there because the elevated tracks. And you know, when they put the caboose up there, they had to dig down 10 feet and fill it with stone. There's a reason that hill is there, and I don't want to mess around with it because I don't want to end up buying the you know, the restoration of a hill and a railroad track that would cost the village a lot of money. So east side benches, no, and teardrop, no. And I think we're home.
Thank you, trustee Lofton. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beat up the library space any more than my colleagues have, and I think we're all right. I think we can save some money out of the 215. With regard to the bump out, though, I like the bump out. I have a question. You mentioned that, and it's in the document here, that we shortened the walk space, crosswalk on Sterling. How do we do that?
Yeah, and I apologize for it not being shown on the middle image. If you can look to the bottom right image, that crosswalk right now extends all the way from curb on the west side to curb on the east side.
Right.
By bringing the curb, or by bringing the sidewalk out to the back of the angled parking, we are able to make that, I'll call it 15 to 20 or so feet of crosswalk right where my mouse is, that gets changed into sidewalk. So giving a pedestrian a chance, a shorter time being in the road itself.
The way it exists now essentially is right at the bend where the bench and I think you call it balls. Are we saying we're moving that crosswalk further east? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, we're
I'm trying to
moving the
visualize
west
where the
side
short-
further east. Yep, that's the right way of putting it.
All right, that makes sense to me. I think I'm in line with my colleague to my right with regard to the east side treatment there. Somehow or another, I don't see that as really being a big push. So I'd be willing to eliminate that, notwithstanding the potential safety reasons that my colleague has indicated. And again, on another thing, the 15-inch sanitary sewer, we don't have a cost of that yet, so that's still be thrown in here, right?
Not as a part of this project, but it is a separate project that does include it.
It would have to be done before this project got started, right?
Ideally, yes. Ideally. I think there's a situation where it doesn't, but for now, we would like to say ideally, yes.
I guess as all of our road projects go, that's not cheap.
You threw out a number the other day when we were meeting with you.
At least a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
We don't have a scope yet.
So we gotta save some dollars somewhere, folks, and I think we need to be thinking about those things. But, that's all.
I'll just point out that the sanitary sewer relocation project, that'll come out of water and sewer. So that is a different pot of money than what we're talking about here with the general fund, but as you well know, everything does can cross when one fund can't support its services.
Sorry, trustee Lofton, so Park Drive improvements, was that a yes or a no or a modified?
I agree with the modifications.
So eliminate the seat wall.
Exactly.
And then for Flossmoor Road bump out, were you in favor of that?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Trustee Driscoll.
Okay, good evening. Excellent presentation. Good seeing you again. I'm glad you listened to us. It saved the teardrop after we kept sending it back to the drawing board year after year after year. So I guess we won that one. Going to the library plaza, I'm in agreement with the majority of the trustees here. I would keep the north, the seawall right next to the street, get rid of the other ones, put in benches. I think it's safe, it was like 67,000 right there. I'm in agreement with that, and then I like what Trustee Mitro said, we have to have that, you know, it still has to look good. So we can't just have bushes out there, we gotta have kind of a combination of both to deter the people walking over it. The Park Drive improvements seem like that's like, we could do most of the savings. Of course, we have to do the concrete work, that's the whole point. And, you know, the raised sidewalk there, you know, coming out, it kind of protects the school kids when they're coming through there, through the pedestrian tunnel, and the whole thing. But we get rid of, we got three, each of those planters is like 25 grand too, right? Besides the seawall that we want to get rid of.
No, it's the, I'll draw a line on here.
So,
It's about starting, I'm gonna say starting about here, as you go
All the work in
north.
this section.
oh, yeah. I was talking about the planters though. Aren't those planters to the right where your arrow is? Those are just what? How much were those? I thought in our original meeting those were kind of pricey.
It's fluctuated between a raised planter, a precast concrete wide seating area planter, down to what's been decided is a very low curb. Just think of like the curb on the side of the road. Yeah, like a 6-inch barrier curb, very, I'll call it minimalist, but in a good way. Let the plants be the focal point, not the curb.
Okay, so we get rid of the seat wall there, I'd be happy with that. The Flossmoor Road bump out. The whole point of putting a bump out there is to slow down the traffic. And talking with John, we went over these plans, we're trying to prevent people from doing 360s in there as well. So Bridget knows where this is going. I bothered her at 7:15 in the morning because I take the train and the platform's right up there and I'm overlooking that intersection. And I watch the accidents happen every day. And I take pictures on my phone. I said to Bridget, boy, we should get somebody down here maybe enforce some of these traffic rules. And doing that will prevent people from dropping off, so there's no drop-off zone there anyways, but everybody ignores that. And then they do a 360 right from there into the intersection without stopping, as Gary says, and keep going. So we need the bump out. But I would say to Trustee Mitros' point, we're going to get rid of the dining in the street if we're going to put it in a cafe. So you're going to reclaim six parking spaces right there.
In the summertime.
Well, it's, you know, most of the year it seems like. So I think you're actually gaining parking spaces rather than focusing on losing those two. You're gaining a lot back. So with that said, I'm for the bump out. East side bench seating, taken out completely, it's gone. The teardrop expansion, you know, the 15 grand seems small, you know, 2 benches in that little area doesn't seem like a lot, but if you really want to get, if we need to save additional money, then sure, I'll go with that as well. I mean, we do have a responsibility to our taxpayers, not to just, you know, take any of these improvements lightly. So there has to be some raised safety issues, as Gary said, being primary.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate that. Let me try to recap this. For the library plaza placemaking, 5 out of the 6 trustees said remove the north seat walls, but keep the south seat wall. One of the reasons is for safety, so that if somebody ends up driving up onto the curb, that helps prevent them from going onto the sidewalk. For the Park Drive improvements, it seems like a majority of the trustees, 5 out of the 6, said keep it, but eliminate the seat wall. You would agree? Okay, so 6 out of 6. Okay, 6 out of 6 says keep Park Drive improvements, but eliminate the seat wall, which will save us a significant amount of money there. Flossmoor Road bump out, everybody seems to be fine with, except for one person. Trustee Mitros, sorry, you're the odd man out on that one. And if we brought you a decorative bollard, if we brought you something that you like.
Well, let's go in front of the factories.
No, they have decorative ones.
So Jim, they have some that have lighting on it that cast onto the walkway. They look actually really nice.
Can you keep it
People have
open?
been hit by a car at that intersection.
If we prevent, how many?
There's a much more in peril up on.
But can we just keep an open mind?
Okay, so
Thank you.
can I comment on that one?
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
It's not how many people have been hit, it's preventing people from getting hit in the future. If we didn't put in a bollard that might cost a couple $1,000s, and a car went up and hit someone, I don't want to live with that responsibility.
Well, it's expensive, probably.
He's gonna like it. We'll make you a believer, Jim.
Okay, let's make it a
Okay.
Not
Not that. East side bench seating, it seems like everybody was unanimous in that, eliminating that. It is lovely though. And then the teardrop expansion, also very lovely. You see, you have a tear forming in your eye. It's okay. It's okay.
It's just a single tear drop.
We'll eliminate that as well. So I think this strikes a really nice balance between aesthetics and also safety and security, and really making our downtown look quite swanky for the next couple of decades.
One more question?
Sure.
This is a question that bringing in another project, when we, and maybe this is something John would also like to comment on. When we talk about phase 3 of the Flossmoor Viaduct project, which we haven't received bids yet for phase 3, to Trustee Lofton's point, we don't have a bid yet for the sewer. With these open questions on bid, doesn't that emphasize more that we need to really save money on this particular project?
Well, potentially, it could be, it depends what the scope of that sanitary sewer relocation project is finally cost, because we're actually getting A sheets done right now, and we don't have the final scope with the topography yet, that's being prepared. But yeah, we're anticipating we can pay for it out of the water and sewer fund, which is separate from this, but in the event that it's more expensive, we could be coming to the general fund for a recommendation to pay for some of it out of there.
And where would money come from for phase 3 if we find out that we're over what was estimated?
For the viaduct project?
No, for the, yes, for the.
For the viaduct project's not being paid out of, it's being paid out of the bottom fund.
Would be totally out of
Yeah,
that.
and you remember, there's more than just phase 3, there's phase 3, 4, and 5, so phase 3 is the storm sewer on Lawrence from the basin to Maryland. Phase 4 is our Army Corps project from Maryland to almost Hawthorne, just south of there a little bit. And then phase 5 will be the last piece up to the viaduct.
And there are a few additional seat walls. Let's look at where those are and the cost of those as well. And we can look at that later, Mr. Schreiber.
I know when I saw the plans and we had our preview, which I'm grateful for, helped me to understand today. Aren't there some smaller projects that we're also talking about for flooding? Just the individual ones?
Yeah.
That perhaps we should think about, could we pay for any of those if we balance out this one quite well?
So while they're pulling up their exhibit here, as I mentioned in the manager's report, there's a whole host of projects identified in our capital improvements plan in the back of our budget where we've identified there's a need and we have not identified funding. Now, some of those aren't going to be able to be funded by the removal of a few seawalls. We're definitely going to be looking at grants to support those. But yes, we do have an increasing, to your point on rear yard drainage improvement projects. We do have an increasing number of requests being submitted for John and his team to evaluate. And I would expect that list to grow over the next couple of years. Now the size of them varies, and we've seen
projects as small as $40,000 all the way up to, over $1 million, where we know we're gonna have to pursue an MWRD grant to support it. Okay, I was thinking of those $40,000, $30,000, $15,000.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. Any other questions for us?
Did you want to see the seawalls? I'll give you a little rundown of the rest of the seawalls, or?
I think so.
Sorry, I don't have them on the flash drive, but I can point them out.
Okay.
There are 9 total seawalls on this project. There is one at the Homewood-Flossmoor Sterling pump out. There are 2 at Central and Park. Think of it as funneling the pedestrians, making sure they stay on the sidewalk. Another 2 on the opposite side. I'm sorry, I lost the mouse. With the same intent of funneling those pedestrians to the crosswalk. There's 3 there. Sorry, yes. There are 3 funneling to the 2 crosswalks. One here as we've been asked to eliminate, and then there are 2 more going around the corner. And then the 3 at the library. And if I'm correct, that is the 9.
Is it possible to make those an alternate? To see how bidding comes in and make that an alternate? John's shaking his head now.
That question's been asked a couple times, and I've had to answer that a couple times. Now, with the funding mechanism that we have to bid this project through the IDOT state letting. The IDOT state letting does not allow for alternatives.
Okay, so board, do you want any seat walls? Is that what you need us to make a decision on? Any seat walls or no? Isn't that what you're asking us?
What is
Needs
the
more
total
seat walls.
cost for all 9? I mean,
Yeah, it's about $460,000 for all the seat walls.
I would say the only seat wall that I really need would be the one at the library. I don't know, is that 40 feet or? I think.
The south, the one next to the road.
Yeah, the one right next to the road.
Yeah, that's a lot of dough. I mean, I was thinking that we saved about 150,000.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we were just investing in seat walls. I don't see it. I mean, we've lived this long without them. I think we could live a little longer.
It'll open up, we can do benches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we, Trustee Lofton, agreed?
Absolutely.
Trustee Mitros, yes. Trustee Mustafa? Trustee Brendan Scott? Yes. Trustee Daggett?
One question about that. Is there any difference in safety going from a seat wall to a bench? Anything more than not?
I was going to say, there might be marginal, what we're talking about, but
Trustee Driscoll? Okay, they were really good, but thank you.
They were really
Thank you, but no, thank you.
We are keeping 1 seat wall at the library.
Library.
So only 1. Okay.
Can I give a thought to consider? The area in front of the post office is really, that corner becomes our, what I'll call our overflow if we have anything happening in front of the library. And that's oftentimes where you'll see people gather and try and sit, whether they're bringing chairs or sitting on the curb or what have you. You may want to consider permanent seating there where they could be able to sit and view the library.
What about across the street too by Lamb and Drugs or, the eye doctor? Same thought?
Same thought.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that. That makes sense. There's a purpose for it. So it would be the seat wall in front of the library, the large one, and the 2 across the street.
So you're saying use that corner where you have the library, you got the barber shop, and the eye doctor. Those 3 corners kind of make it seat walls on that because that becomes a center of a lot of the events that we do.
So we've gone from 9 to 5.
How many people will it accommodate for $50,000?
I would say 3 to 9 to 5.
For $100,000, how many people will it accommodate?
Talking about a 2 foot per person. So you get some legs on those. I can get back to you on those things.
So an 8-foot seat wall is going to accommodate 4 people. I don't think it's worth the money.
We're down to 3, right? That's what I was saying, 3.
I said go with the benches outside the library.
That's fine, I just
And
wanted
then,
to.
yeah, down the road, if we come into a windfall, then maybe we have.
They won't be added later, just point that.
Yeah, it will-
You're not gonna be adding these later.
Yeah, these have 4 foot to 5 foot
Footers.
deep foundations.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking about building something on the surface that you can move later. It's gonna be heavy.
Are we still in support of eliminating all but the south side library?
Well, when you were referring to it, you're saying 2 on each of those corners, not
It was
just 1.
written,
I
yes.
was thinking just 1, but then we go back to 5 and forget it. Yeah. 9 to 5.
That makes sense to me, that we have one each front lamp and a post office.
But we're creating an imbalance in the aesthetics. Because I think the 9 were supposed to kind of blend in to create a picture of downtown. That's why they were there.
But the activities.
But my point is this: we keep the one in the library, we do all the rest of the benches. Now we have created a balance in
Right.
aesthetics.
It's aesthetically.
That would probably make sense to everybody. Certainly, we think about it in the cost as well.
I just read to the point that the activities that we have kind of in that little circle, 4th of July, the chamber night, you know, it's right there where we actually have the need for the seating. The other 9 are kind of, to the point, they're not really necessary. These actually would serve a function, the other 2. So, that's my thought.
The bench says other 4, is what you're saying.
I'll say 2. Just put
No,
one.
we're just saying 2 of them.
You could do that, or you could whittle it down, figure out a way to whittle it down, so we just have 3.
I was okay with the 3, but when Bridget turned it to 5, then
That we limit to 3.
People are still gonna bring chairs because it won't be enough seating for everyone.
And I kind of agree with Trustee Lofton that the aesthetics of it, if it looks like they're just kind of, well, we put 2 over there, 1 here, 1 here, and it's not balanced. And we can get some really nice benches for a whole lot less money.
Well, and we can't go overboard, what's that just do? I mean, we just have to find out.
Okay, so back to no seat. Just one sequel, back to one sequel. One sequel?
Yeah.
One sequel.
Make it a really nice one.
Make it a really nice.
Flemish, can we get?
I don't wanna make it any nicer than we already
Can we
is.
get a Flemish bond on it?
No gold plating here.
Just a Flemish bond of the actual library, that would be cool.
Essentially, in terms of the budget, we were looking for $800,000.
We were looking for 500 additional for everything.
And we just cut out 4. So where, you didn't cut out like
Well, we still have the 1.
Where are we? Can somebody give us a?
Well, we've got 31 and 2 little projects, and then 460, let's say 300. I mean, we cut out a substantial portion.
Oh, we cut out over $300,000 in just retaining walls.
Yeah.
Plus the east side and the teardrop.
So we're
I think we're about 400,000. Give or take 400,000 that we've cut.
Great presentation, thank you so much.
Thank you all, it's nice to see everybody again.
We do not, thank you, Mr. Brennan. We do not need to go into executive session tonight, so I'm gonna call for, other business. Trustee Mustafa.
I want to start with just echoing a request that I've made before, and Bridget, we've promised, so this will just be a reiteration. I would like to see the total so far for phase 2 construction for the basin, and you said that construction totals could be presented when we review the budget. I'd like to add to that a year-to-date versus budget for events by event, so that we can see how much we're spending for 2024, and I'd like to see it compared to 2023, just to see where we are, eliminating Flossmoor Fest, adding other events, and looking at the difference so that we know going forward into 2025 what that picture looks like. And then the only other thing I'd like to mention is an additional thank you to our Flossmoor Police Department for the swift handling of the Thursday armed assault and robbery. Very commendable work, and from all I've heard, it was definitely a department effort. I'd like to also recognize the forward thinking for purchasing the license plate readers, the project that was started by former Chief Darrell Jones and his command staff, Deputy Chief, Acting Chief Keith Taylor, and Commander Felkins. From everything that I've heard and read, the cameras made all the difference in the prompt apprehension, as well as the collaborative efforts of the police departments, which speaks to a positive relationship that Flossmoor has with other police entities. But however, I'd like to also echo that I think we missed an opportunity. I totally understand that we do not want to alarm our residents. We want to be sure that we have all of our facts and information. But from the residents who called me, the silence created an unsafe situation for them, because they had heard about it through media, but we also keep in mind that those media advisories don't go to the residents, they go to the media. So it's good to put out the media advisory, but the residents were looking for something that told them what was going on. And we could have applauded the good work that the police did by saying, you don't have to worry, everything is okay. I'd like not to lean on that procedures were followed. I'd like to lean on that the existing procedures were followed, and that we examine how we use the alert systems to update them, knowing that social media preempts a methodical approach that we all experienced 10, 15, 20 years ago. But for people to, I had an arm's length text message thread from so many different individuals when I woke up on Friday morning. What's going on? What's going on? Just to hear that everything's okay would have been a very meaningful message. I do understand that you wanted not to alarm, but the silence was alarming. Thank you.
Thank you. Village Manager Rockdale, do you want to address the communication?
Certainly. So historically, and every once in a while we go through this conversation after a police incident occurs, but you know, our role as first of all, the role for the police department is to keep the community safe and to police. They are not there to serve as the news media, and the village has not served as the news media. We provide the news, we provide our media sources with what has happened. That is the purpose of the media advisory. And we communicated through that media advisory that everyone was safe. We do have incidents that happen where this conversation comes back up of why was there no ECOP, why was there no alert. We're not calling the community to action to take any specific steps. And that is the whole purpose, that is what we've defined the whole purpose of the ECOP to be. The ECOP is not supposed to be a news alerting type system. It is supposed to get people's attention to take a specific action. If the board wants to change the way that we are, the standard of service that we are providing with respect to that, then that's a different conversation. But like I said, our role is to share the information with the media outlets, which we did. And if there is some sort of call to action that we need for the public to take, some sort of shelter in place or request for information, or request for written video, etc., that's when we push those messages out through our media sources.
Thank you. Trustee Brandon Scott?
I'm sorry, Trustee, just one more thing. With respect to the costs associated with the detention basin, not everything has been paid out yet, so fulfilling that request would be premature. But certainly at the time of wrapping up the project and closing it out, we will certainly give that sort of report to the village board.
That's certainly reasonable. I'm bringing it up just to keep it, so to speak, alive, that's information that I know I'm seeking and perhaps others.
Thank you. Trustee Brandon Scott?
Yes, I actually have a few items that I wanted to discuss. The first being hearing the conversation and the comments regarding the robbery. I can appreciate all of the efforts that the police department made. Having the license plate readers actually sounded like it played a huge part in the recovery of the vehicle and the apprehension of the suspect. And everything happened really swiftly. In today's time, it seems like technology is being used more and more to keep people safe and to stifle events. I'll leave it at that. And so I think that what the community, for the most part, is saying is that we appreciated the swift acts of officers and the support that other communities provided, but also being our neighboring home, being where we reside. Although the news media is great, we would like to hear from our home base in terms of a status report, a congratulations, thanks for going above and beyond and working towards a swift resolution. I think that is what the community is saying in terms of there was silence. And so when we look to the community to provide us some action, some news, we expect that to happen. And shortly thereafter on Friday, there was a notice that went out, Friday Facts, something to that effect, and it asked people to sign up for e-com or RAID or what have you. And so when those types of messages go out, it is very confusing for residents, us trustees, because I too got a ton of phone calls about what was going on. And so if we are able to create a standard of what the policies and procedures are, the way that we will act when these things happen, then we can set a standard on what to expect. Obviously, we don't want to put any bad news out about our town. However, if you look at it from the standpoint of celebrating the fast actions of the officers and the department, and fortunately no one was harmed, and just to bring everybody up to speed at a reasonable time. I don't think anybody was asking for it to be at the time when everyone was acting to solve the case, but at a reasonable time that the residents be looped in to what's happening. So I just wanted to underscore that part. Changing the subject, I wanted to talk a little bit about the steering committee that was brought forward for the Central Business District discussion that we had this evening. I am very thankful for the residents, the business owners, and staff, and all that participated in the discussions. And I just wanted to, again, underscore some things that we've heard in the past couple of weeks, the past couple of months, in terms of what I believe that the community is asking. And so I wanted to ask Bridget, Michelle, what the advertisement was to invite people to participate. What kind of?
There wasn't an advertisement. We just picked from a broad range of residents from several different neighborhoods, several different ages, different jobs, different backgrounds, to collect a really great group.
Okay. The reason I ask is because community engagement and the residents' input is very important, especially we've been talking about this situation for 5 years, I think now, and to get people's opinions about what they believe will help make the community safer, make the community aesthetically pleasing is fantastic. However, I want to know a little bit more about why the group came together.
So we had a delivery driver from Flossmoor Hills. We had a few elderly folks, one who drives downtown to shop, another one who walks downtown to shop, the chair of our green commission to make sure that we were dealing with plantings correctly. We also had the owner of the post office who has a vested interest in this project as well, and who has been very much in our ear about this as it's developed. And then we also have the Flossmoor Business Association. We had 2 representatives from there. And then also a civil engineer from the estates area. And then from Pinewood, we had somebody who has worked for IDOT. He's on our plan commission. And he has a family, so he's really engaged in family activities as well.
Our library director also served, as well as our village arborist.
So it was a very targeted group meant to get opinions from several different areas of the village, again, with several different backgrounds and concerns, whether it be walking, parking, family, really trying to bring all those folks together. Accessibility, handicap accessibility.
Well, that is really good. And we had people with small children that were also part of it, so that's fantastic. The reason that I asked the question is because when I came on the board in 2017, I came in right when the baton was being passed, and the board was already engaged in the rebranding and the 5-year strategic plan and so forth and so on. And there were steering committees, if you will, and forums and community outreach and all of those things that were happening at that time as well. So in my mind, that was the standard in which we conducted business, especially when it impacted so many large groups across our town. And I just want to impose a thought in terms of how the Heather Hill detention basin area was handled, and residents were not afforded the opportunity to come together in a forum like we talked, like I just mentioned, in terms of the steering committee, the time when I came on the board for the rebranding and the 5-year strategic plan, that those are opportunity areas for the entire community to engage for the reasons that you identified, Mayor, where we want to have the best and the brightest thought process of how we're arriving at our decisions. And from my personal standpoint, from what we heard from the residents, that was an opportunity area that was left out, and that's how residents feel in terms of their engagement, their opportunity to come to the table with some ideas and being able to have a voice in the matter. And so when you're trying to create community engagement and buy-in, we want everyone to operate from the same playbook and provide opportunities for shared vision, careful analysis, and public support so that the community is able to buy into, why we are arriving to the thought processes where we're arriving and how we're coming up with the decisions. If they have a seat at the table, just like in all of the other things, then we're able to work more harmoniously as a town. So just want to put that out there in terms of how we move forward on future projects. I know that we are not able to have resident sessions for everything that we do, but given the investment in some of these projects, we're spending millions of dollars, it's affecting people greatly. We want to make sure that we have, give people a seat at the table.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I understand where you're coming from, and that's why we've had several meetings with 161 in the public forum where we did presentations of the design and asked for feedback. We also got feedback at Park District meetings. There was a chance for people to see the plans there, and then there were many opportunities for folks to see the plans as developed here as a board meeting, along with an open house, and then an added Zoom session to address any questions folks have. So definitely agree that more outreach is a good thing, and the more opportunities that we can find for that to create that engagement, it's really important for a project. So yeah, I agree with you. Thank you.
And again, to underscore the point, you just mentioned the targeted audiences and the intentionality behind the things that you just mentioned. However, in Heather Hill, that intentionality was not provided. So I'm going to leave that there, but I think we could have done better as it pertains to that. And then I have one other item that I wanted to bring forward. So we have heard from residents that have been concerned about property taxes since before, but especially since receiving the second installment of the 2023 property tax bill. And I wanted to introduce an opportunity for some potential relief for homeowners by getting more commercial properties on the tax roll. So in May of 2022, the Southland Reactivation Act became law, offering an economic incentive to private developers who work with municipalities to bring eligible non-tax generating commercial and industrial parcels back to productive use and therefore bringing the properties back to the tax rolls. The property taxes would benefit all taxing districts, and the benefit to developers would be to provide a predictable tax bill that doesn't fluctuate with assessments. So the act uses a unique formula to develop a low tax liability for the property utilizing the base year EAV, which would be the last year during which the property was occupied and assessed and had an equalized valuation as a starting point for an assigned EAV. Next, it reduces the EAV by 50% and has a codified maximum tax liability ceiling for 1 year of $100,000 maximum. In years 2 through 12, the tax liability for the property increases over the preceding year by 10%. And this act is a model legislation as it removes properties from the assessors and board of review market assessment process for the duration of that 12-year incentive. It also establishes a maximum tax liability for enrolled properties. So unlike the Cook County property tax incentive programs for class 6, 7, and 8, which reduce market value assessments from 25 to 10% and require affidavits, application fees, and potentially documentation of special circumstances, the Southland Reactivation Act is simplified with the municipal approval, and it can be fast-tracked to as little as 15 days. So eligible parcels must be located in Bloom, Bremen, Calumet, Ridge, Thornton, and Worth townships, as long as they touch Cook County, within Cook County. And then the qualifying tax exempt properties are owned by either the municipality, in this case Flossmoor, the South Suburban Land Bank Development Authority, or Cook County Land Bank Authority. And zone commercial or industrial properties, you would, if we participate in this, we would go to the Southland Reactivation website where persons can search for the parcels if they meet the program's initial eligibility. And so some of our TIF properties could be, eligible and an opportunity for some people. At this time, the program is being underutilized across the region, and Flossmoor would need to get village-owned properties on that site and market it as a designated parcel. The municipality must pass a resolution through the local legislative body designating the site and provide notification to the Cook County's Assessor's Office and the South Suburban Mayors and Management Organization as a designation. Provide notice of abatement of tax bill to the Cook County Clerk's Office would be the last thing. And so people are usually discouraged from utilizing the Southland Reactivation Act primarily due to the fee structure that is set up with the tax 6, 7, and 8 abatements, because there is a large process involved where the attorneys would get involved and help out with that process. It appears that the attorneys make less money on the application process side because everything is more simplified. And so as developers and people come and talk about properties that they are interested in, this would be something that we could offer up, because over time, that initial year seems like the property taxes may be a little higher with the Southland Reactivation Act, but in years 2 through 12, it seems like it would be lower.
So you have properties in mind that you're thinking about suggesting?
Yes.
Which properties?
So the properties, all of the village-owned properties and
Which are, you mean the Bear Lane that we have?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it applies to just property, not structures.
Right.
Thank you so much. That is definitely something that's on our radar. And then just want to make sure, I know that we all wish that an update would have gotten out sooner on Thursday, but just make sure that you saw on Facebook that we did post updates on Friday and Saturday about the incident. Okay, great, thank you. Trustee Day.
Excuse me, Mayor, and also it is posted very clearly on the
website.
On the website, which I appreciate when I went there.
Thank you. Trustee Day.
Yeah, just one quick thing, and I asked Village Manager Wachtel about this. Normally, we would have seen a audit report, but there's been an extension, she said, so we will see that sometime in December. Someone asked me about it with everything going on in Orland, so I just want to make a note of it. I was told we'll expect that sometime in December. And then also just wanted to say a thank you to a couple of residents, going back to it, which I saw in the manager's report. There's a new speed sign by Heather Hill, and that came from, yes, Lance and Cindy Olson graciously donated some money to partially fund that. So as we've been identifying some of these things that could be done, we've got residents who are ponying up and put money to it because they see the need for safety as well. So just special thank you to them for doing that, and then identifying some of those as we continue finding those ways that we can make those areas safer. So just wanted to say thank you to them.
Thank you. Trustee Driscoll.
Nothing, just wanted to thank Director Estelle for an excellent summary of the events that took place, and just go from there.
Thank you. Trustee Lofton.
I just want to chime in on Trustee Beverly Scott's comments on the steering committee. I think the steering committee was an excellent idea, and to have that kind of input from literally every sector of our village on these projects certainly makes sense and demonstrates transparency that we're hearing about so often. And the basin issue is one that maybe we missed at that level. Moving forward, I think we should strongly consider that on these projects.
Thank you. Trustee Matrix.
I just thought the process tonight was pretty good. I'm sure the steering committee didn't get everything they wanted, but I think we cut a lot of fat out, and I think we did a good job, and that's all I had to say.
Clerk Gum.
Real quick, I just wanted to say great choice with appointing who's known to be as Pastor Travis, who is one of the pastors at FCC. Besides all the wonderful things that you guys read, he goes out of his way with his teachings, and he recently hosted an anti-racism retreat for the teenagers, invited speakers to come drive out in the middle of nowhere on their camping trip, community leaders to speak. So I'm great choice. I'm very grateful to him.
Thank you. Village Attorney? Village Manager? I want to congratulate Ann and the Finance Department for the 46th consecutive year of receiving the Government Finance Officers Association Excellence in Financial Reporting. So great job. And then, let's see, what was it? Jeez, 2 weeks ago Wednesday, so just a little bit over a week and a half ago, the Chicago Southland Visitors Bureau gave us this award, the Tourism Award of Merit, which is very odd because we don't provide any of the funding for the Chicago Southland. They get most of their funding from heads and beds, and we don't have hotels here. But they have absolutely fallen in love with Flossmoor's programming, from our tree planting, 300 trees in one day, to Juneteenth parade, to chamber night, and so on. So I'm very proud of receiving this award, and thank everybody who had a part in it. It was a whole team effort, volunteers, residents, staff. Thank you all for your support. If there's nothing else, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you all so much for sticking with us. You all get extra stars, gold stars. Thank you.